Spratling. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Perkins, thank you, Bert. According to your complaint, you and the defendant have known each other a very long time. You lived together for a period of time. And while you were living together, you made a loan to him in the amount of $400 to fix his truck. And then you claimed that you purchased a dinette set for the apartment. When you left, or when he put you out of the house, he kept the dinette set. So you want the money that you spent on the dinette set and the $400 loan for his truck. The defendant says there were never any loans. He paid all the bills. Whatever you bought into the house, you bought really to, take care of your end of the bills. And in addition, when you left, you destroyed certain things in the house, and you really damaged his property, doors, threw around his clothes and whatever. So we'll get you a counterclaim in a minute. When did you move in together, Ms. Perkins?
In September.
How long had you known him before that?
About 5.5 years.
And were you planning a long-term relationship with him?
Yes.
What was the financial arrangement when you moved in?
Well, he paid all the bills there. I got most of the groceries, and I paid my car note and insurance and my other bills, because we were both using my vehicle at the same time.
You were using your car?
He had my car most of the time because I was at work. I was working 2 jobs, and he had my car throughout the whole day.
What was he doing with your car?
I would get dropped off at work at 8:30, and he would come pick me up from work at 5.
So he was working during the day?
Right, until, well, he went to work at 12.
So now tell me about this $400 loan.
Well, in November, he asked me, could he borrow $400 to get his car fixed? And I said, okay.
So he had a car?
But it was never working. He needed the money to get it fixed, so I let him borrow the money.
Fine. Can I borrow $400? Is that what he said to you?
Yeah, so I let him borrow. He came to the job.
Can I borrow $400?
Yes.
And when did he get the money?
In November. November 28th.
Did you make any arrangement with him with regard to paying back the money?
No set date. He said he was going to give it back. And I asked him plenty of times, can I get the money back? And he would say, okay. And we came across a couple of situations agreements that we might come by.
Miss Perkins, listen to me carefully. I don't want you to make things up as you go along.
I'm not.
Good. Okay, you gave him the $400. You continued to live together.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, he got the money the day that, he got the money November 28th. That's when everything went down. That's when everything happened.
Is November 28th the day that you separated?
Yes.
When was the last time you lived in the house with him? November 28th?
Actually, it was November 27th. The night of November 27th, which turned into November 28th. That's when everything happened, because he had went to the hospital because he had got the young lady pregnant when we were together.
And she was going to have her baby, according to you, that night. Okay. What about this dinette set? When did you buy the dinette set?
In October. I gave him the money to go pick up. The dinette set was, they was purchased separately. The chairs was purchased at one place, and the table was purchased at the other.
All right, so how much is it, $400?
No, the whole dinette set was $650.
Okay, Mr. Spratling.
Yes, I said I don't owe Erica.
I don't care what you say. Did you take $400 from her on the 27th or 28th of November?
Erica did give me $400.
Did you take
Yes.
$400 from her on either the 27th or the 28th?
Yes, I did.
And when did you put her out of the house?
That same night. That same night,
And what did you do with the $400?
I used that $400 to get my car fixed.
That's pretty coincidental.
Right, if I may. On the 28th or whatnot, I called Erica, let her know that my car was down, and I had needed some money to go ahead and get my car fixed. Erica, being my woman at that time, went ahead and gave me the money. I never went ahead and asked Erica. I never went ahead and told Erica, let me borrow any money. Erica went ahead and gave me that money or whatnot to get my car fixed. I never once said, let me borrow the money, or can you loan me this money? By us staying together, whatnot, I went ahead and just, okay, take it as if, well, we're together, whatnot. I didn't ask you for a loan or whatever. I asked you if, I told you my car was down, you went ahead and just gave me the money. I never told you, well, Erica.
I heard that already. Move on. That night you put her out of the house, correct?
Correct.
Want to tell me how that came about, sir?
My daughter was being born or whatnot. I went ahead and called Erica, letting her know the situation. And Erica told me that if I stayed overnight at the hospital or whatnot, that she was going to, ruin my apartment or whatnot, because me and her she was getting upset or whatnot.
No, I told you.
Shh. So then called and asked my younger brother and my cousin Nisha here if they can go ahead to my apartment, make sure that Erica doesn't, leave and ruin my apartment at the same time. And that's when Erica and my cousin then it got into an altercation or whatnot.
Well, Erica got a little crazy and started to throw around your stuff. Isn't that right, Erica?
In my bedroom.
I don't
Yes.
care what bedroom it was. You started throwing around his stuff. Is that right?
Yes.
You were pretty angry.
I was very upset.
Oh, okay. So you want to tell me what you think she owes you?
$2,400.
For what?
We got harassment, damaged property, harassment.
What's the damaged property? Forget harassment. You ought to be harassed. What's next? You ought to be harassed. She wouldn't do it, I'll do it.
All right.
Tell me about the damaged property, sir.
Well, Erica went ahead and like the day she came over, on the 28th, she came in and kicked in my door.
Show me the bill. Did you kick in
I
his
didn't
door?
kick in the door. I had keys to the door. I had no reason to kick in it. My sister kicked in the door.
And was she with you?
Oh, yes, she was with me.
Good, so you're responsible. Cost him $100 for new locks. What else?
Then that right there is for can I see this, please? That there is for assault or whatnot. This
For
is
what?
Assault. Erica also came over to my house again after we had already broken up, or whatever, banging on my door or whatnot, almost getting me evicted from my apartment, or whatever. She then kicked the door, breaking my molding and whatnot.
All right.
This here's the police report for that.
I don't care about the police report. Where's the bill?
I don't have a bill for that.
So how am I supposed to figure out how much that cost? What'd you kick in his door for,
I've
Erica?
never kicked in the door. I've never kicked the door at all.
All right.
I've never did it.
Well, since he doesn't have a bill, I can't help you anyway. But you certainly are responsible for new locks that he had to put on because your sister kicked in the door, because your sister was
I
angry.
told her
She
to
came over
stop
with you.
kicking it in because I had the keys to the door. So it was
She's
no
your
reason.
responsibility, my dear.
I don't tell her what to do.
Fine. Then you know what you should do? Sue her for the $100 because it's coming off your claim. Do you understand that?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, what else?
A broken chain. The day Erica came in, the second time she came in and assaulted me or whatever, she broke my chain.
That was my chain.
Shh, shh. No, it wasn't. You gave it to him.
No, I've never given him that chain.
Oh,
He
really?
wore it throughout the relationship. I've never said, here, you could have this chain.
Oh, stop
I let
it.
him wear it
Stop it. How many years has he worn it?
a year.
That's a long time.
I mean,
now it's
even
become his.
we
Adverse
have been-
possession. Listen, now it's his. She broke the chain?
Yes, Your Honor.
My
Oh, put it back in your pocket. What other damage? Let's hear. Let's hear. You want to give me any other nonsense? I really have a very busy day.
Oh, that's basically all.
Good, fine.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You were dumb enough to buy it, pay to
Why would
have
I
it
have
moved.
to pay for it? I mean, I'm not
Listen, you
understanding
want him
that.
to keep the dinette set?
No, I want the dinette
Then
set.
get it.
And later today,
Why don't you have a job? What do you
I was
do?
going to school. I was getting ready to go to school.
Going to school and getting ready to go to school are two
I had-
entirely different things.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Erica Perkins says ex-boyfriend Carl Spratling owes for a loan and for the return of a dinette set. Carl says Erica gave him the money so he could fix his car.
All right, where's the dinette set?
It's in my apartment.
Good, you're going to give it back to her. And we're going to pack it up and we're going to give it back to her, and you're going to give it back to her in very, very good condition. Do you understand?
Yes, I do. I have a question.
Well, I'm not usually here to answer questions, but in your case, I'll make an exception. What's
Okay,
your question?
Well, basically, my question is, why am I giving her a dining room set, which I told Erica not to purchase, and whatnot, due to our relationship, we were already on shaky terms. I asked Erica not to purchase this dining room set.
Yes?
I said, Erica, don't buy this dining room set because.
And she
You
didn't
never
listen.
told me that.
Erica,
Okay.
shut up. So what's your question? You told her not to buy it.
I told her not to buy it or whatnot.
You told her not to buy it,
Correct.
and she bought it anyway.
Correct.
So what's your question?
So I'm wondering, like, I told her not to buy it. She purchased it anyway. She told me, I was like, well, Erica, I don't want you buying this dinette set due to the fact that if me and you were to break up, that, you know, you're going to want to take it with you. I quote, Erica sat there and told me that if me and her was to break up, I can have the dinette set. She was just going to leave with her
No,
items.
that not.
I want you to
Okay.
be quiet if I need you. So what's your question?
Why am I
Why-
returning it when she told me I
Yeah,
can have it?
Why are you returning it?
Correct.
I'm going to give you the answer. Because I said so. That's the answer.
Right.
For the same reason that you're going to give her back the $400, which now becomes $300 because I'm taking $100 off for the locks her sister broke. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff following $300 in cash, plus the dinette set is to be packed up. 5 days from today, you arrange for it to be moved to wherever you want it moved. Do you understand?
So I would have to pay for the expenses to it for me so that it could be removed.
You
Or
have to pay to have it moved. Yes, you were dumb enough to buy it, pay to
why
have
would I
it
have
moved.
to pay for it though to be
You-
moved? I understand, but I don't. I mean, I'm not.
Listen, you want him
understanding.
to keep the dinette set?
No, I want the dinette.
Then
set
get
back.
it. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If she wanted, she can have it. I'll buy my own.
I mean, he did get a young lady pregnant when we worked together.
He told her not to buy it, and she wanted to buy it anyway. It was her stupid decision.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Heath versus Carter. Step forward, please.
Street sweeper Ray Heath is suing his ex-girlfriend, 20-year-old student Nicole Carter, for unpaid rent and for damages to their apartment. Nicole is countersuing, also for apartment damages and for the cost to change the locks.
Mr. Heath, you and Miss Carter decided to set up housekeeping in your own apartment, and you leased an apartment together. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you lease the apartment?
April of 2001.
And because neither of you probably had very good credit, your aunt had to co-sign the lease.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there came a time when you and the defendant had an argument, and she called the police and had you removed.
Yes, in August.
And you stayed out of the apartment because she got a protective order against you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
However, she wasn't paying the rent.
Right.
And in order for your, not only your credit, but primarily, I'm sure, your aunt's credit not to be destroyed, you continued to pay the rent on the
Yes,
apartment.
ma'am.
And you want the defendant to pay at least her half of the rent for the months that you weren't there, that she lived there, until you could get out of the lease. And how many months' rent did you pay from August until when, sir?
The agreement was made when we first moved in April. I paid the rent from April 2001 to January of 2002.
What was the entire rent?
$5,338.
That's an expensive apartment a month. I just want you to tell me, sir, how much a month was the rent?
Oh, $475. I'm sorry about that.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay rent in May, June, or July?
No,
Any
ma'am.
rent? You did not.
No, ma'am.
So you didn't pay any rent at all in this apartment?
Nope.
Is that right?
He agreed to pay for the rent, and I clean, cook, and pay the electricity and stuff like that.
Did you have an agreement with her where she would pay half the rent?
No.
Yes,
Quiet.
yes, ma'am. Yes, we did. I have my aunt as a witness.
Are you the one who co-signed on this lease?
Yes.
Would you step up, please? Tell me your last name.
Wilkins.
Miss Wilkins, did these two young people come to you and ask you to sign the lease, co-sign the lease?
Yes, they did.
Both of them?
Both of them. I asked Nicole, was this true that she was going to pay half of the rent, and she told me yes.
Does that sound right?
No, ma'am.
Sure it does. Sure
No,
it does.
That's not how it went.
Listen, were you working?
Nope.
Why not?
At the time when we moved out, we didn't have anywhere to stay at, so I lost my job. That's when he said he was gonna
May,
take her.
June, July,
I never had a
August,
job.
September. Why don't you have a job? What do you
I was
do?
going to school. I was getting ready to go to school.
No. Going to school and getting ready to go to school are two
I had-
entirely different things.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ray Heath says ex-girlfriend Nicole Carter owes for unpaid rent and apartment damages. Nicole says Ray abused her throughout their relationship.
Why weren't you working?
Because I had no transportation.
Aren't there any stores around this place where you were living?
I was looking.
What do you do for a living, sir?
Well, at the time, I was driving a sweeper. The
Now,
streets.
let's get to the time you put him out of the apartment. Tell me about that.
Well, at the time, he'd been abusing me the whole time I've been with him.
Well, that's,
So-
you know, if you allow that to happen,
Yeah.
then you're just as stupid as he is guilty.
You're right. You're right. So we got into an argument over a car that my mother had gave me, and he took my keys.
What kind of an argument did you get into?
Well,
Your
I
mother had
came
given you a
from-
car, right? Mm-hmm. Your mother had given you a car, so now you had transportation so that you could get a
job. Yeah. You're right.
Right.
So
Well, now, what
He
kind
didn't
of an
like the-
argument did you have?
he didn't like the fact that I was driving my car, going other places other than looking for a job.
Sounds right to me. He's
But no,
paying
it
all
wasn't
the
only,
bills.
It wasn't only that. It was just the simple fact that he didn't like my relationship with my mom, my mother coming around, and people that came to the house. He just was very overprotective. He didn't even want me to leave the house. If I wasn't looking for a job, he didn't want me leaving the house. He just wanted me there to cook, clean, and be there for him.
Okay. So you had an argument. What happened during this argument?
He was trying to take my keys from me, so I went to the bathroom to go put on some clothes, and he just grabbed the door open, grabbed me, and swung me into the bed on the floor. Grabbed my keys and left.
He took your keys and he took you out of the bathroom forcefully and threw you on the bed or the floor.
He threw me to the bed, but I landed on the floor.
He missed. So you called the police
Yep.
and you had him removed. And you got an order of protection.
Next day, when he came back again.
Good. Now you have your car that your mother gave you. And you have a lovely smile.
Thank you.
So why couldn't you get a lovely job so that you could pay the rent? Who did you expect to pay the rent?
He put me through so much stuff where...
Who did you expect to pay the rent?
I was going to pay the rent. I had no problem with paying the rent. My mother would have helped me pay the rent, but I just couldn't get him out the house. He still was coming back to the house the whole time, even after I put him out. My house was broken into twice. He was coming, leaving notes, all types of things like that.
You lived there. Why didn't you pay your half of the rent?
Because he agreed to take care of me.
I don't believe you. That after you put him out of the house...
He had been taking care of me
Listen to me
the whole time.
carefully. That after you put him out of the house, that he agreed to take care of you.
When I went to go pay the rent, they told me the rent was already paid, so what was I supposed to do? Just say, oh, well, take my money and give him his back?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
All right, Mr. Heath, listen to me very carefully. You were put out in August. 6 months you paid rent, and you did not have the use of your apartment. The rent is $475 a month. That is $2,850. Half of that is $1,425. Do you understand? You have to think more carefully about what you do, but she's certainly responsible for that. The other 3 months that she lived there with you and you didn't collect her half of the rent, chalk up to your own stupidity. I mean, she's got a great smile and everything else, but you have to separate here from the other parts of your anatomy. In any event, now let's get to your counterclaim. You had to change the locks 3 times because he kept coming back inside?
Twice, yeah.
That's
He
the
was
interest.
it wasn't even that he kept coming in. He had broke in twice. He still had access to the house, and I got the locks changed. He still was coming in there, leaving notes like turn the lights off and stuff like that. He was coming to get his clothes. Oh, he was living there. If I wasn't there, he was there.
You mean he was sleeping there?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I would come there some nights and the bed would be messed up.
But he wasn't there.
But I was just scared. He wasn't there when I got there.
Okay. You changed the locks, it made you feel safer?
No.
Oh, that's too bad.
Because he was still calling, like, turn the lights off.
Explain something to you. Go home and live with your mother.
I did.
Good, you should have done it sooner. You should have done it sooner. The only reason you did it was because you didn't have the sucker anymore to pay your way.
Basically.
Basically. That's absolutely right. As soon as the sucker stopped paying your way, then you move back with your mother. You're a
That was
taker.
his agreement.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000.
Mrs. McDonough.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Who's going to speak for the two of you?
I'll speak first.
It's your claim that you did some work for the defendant who owns a bar in creating a website for him. You are owed $2,000 for the work that you did in creating this website. The defendant's answer is a rather novel one. Let me read the last line just so that you understand what his defense is. Okay. None of the people who work at the club expects to get paid. That's your defense.
Correct.
This isn't run by some charitable organization, this club of yours. Is it a club or a bar? What is it?
It's an event promotion company, and we do, this is referring to the Sunday night club that we do.
Explain the club to me.
It's a drum and bass hip-hop club.
Do you have a room?
2 rooms, sound system, lighting.
And people come there to dance?
Exactly.
Do you serve alcohol?
Yes.
You have a license to serve alcohol?
The bar owns the license.
How much admission do you charge?
$5.
And how long have you had the club?
Nearly 2 years.
Is it running up and running? Does it
Yes.
doing okay?
Yes, does well.
And do you do anything else other than own this club?
Yeah, I do a lot of the work behind it.
Other than the club itself? I'm not talking about Sunday night. I mean,
For a
are you
living?
a carpenter, a plumber, a shoe salesman? Do you do anything else other than the club?
Yeah, I'm a web designer.
And you make money from that?
Yes.
You make good money from that?
Fair money.
Good. You filed tax returns last year?
Yes, I did.
How much did you earn on your tax returns?
I don't remember.
Think hard. Everybody, I mean, was it millions?
No, not at all.
Less than 100,000?
Yes.
Then you would remember exactly how much you put down that you earned on your tax returns, sir. So be very careful when you give me your answer.
About 30,000.
And what portion of that is from the club?
None of the club is filed in my tax returns. That's
not?
just for my separate job.
Is this club in Costa Rica?
No.
It's here in the United States of
Yes,
America.
it is.
So what do you mean it's from a separate job?
My
What do you mean?
tax, I don't claim the club earnings or loss in my taxes.
Why not?
We aren't a registered business yet.
Well, you say you've been doing well. You have gigs every Sunday night. You collect $5 a person. The club is doing fine. So somebody's making money. It has to be you who's paying taxes on the money that you earn at the club.
The bar that we contract through pays their taxes. And
You have a contract with a bar?
Well, we contract that night, the Sunday night.
So you have a contract?
Yes.
Is it a written contract or an oral contract?
Oral contract.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
in there Sundays. We
All
do
right,
our
but
job.
you're not going to get away from your taxes yet. How many people are at the club on any given Sunday night?
It's really hard to say.
Well, think hard. 50, 75. You say the club is doing well. These people have been to the club, have you not?
Mm-hmm.
Approximately how many people are there on any given Sunday?
Probably about a couple hundred people.
Not a couple hundred. We average 100.
I'd say a couple hundred people.
Let's say
Gets
he
busy in
averages
there.
100.
Okay.
No.
Okay? Just a minute. Let's say he
That's
averages
fine.
100. 100 at $5 a person. That would be $500, wouldn't it?
Every day.
$500
Every
every Sunday, and there are usually 4 Sundays in a month.
Correct.
So that would be about $2,000, a little bit more sometimes. There are 3 Sundays in a month, but let's say $2,000 a month. And Mr. McDonald, according to your defense, none of the people who work at the club expects to get paid. So the club makes $24,000 a year.
There are other expenses of people that don't work for us.
Like what?
promotion, for printing flyers. Anything that we out-contract, we do have to pay for. Plane
So who
tickets,
keeps-
flying talent
So
in.
he keeps the books on that.
Me and my partner do.
You and your partner.
Yeah.
Step up, partner. Name.
Carlo.
You have a last name.
Fox.
I didn't ask you your social security number. I just asked you your name. What else do you do other than work in the club, Mr. Fox?
I pretty much work in the club scene, and I also help my girlfriend who has a promotional business, and that's aside from the business that me and him have together.
Now, did you file tax returns last year? No, you didn't. Right?
No, I didn't. And that's because the club did not turn a profit, though.
Oh, that's baloney.
And I can explain to you why it is that the club didn't turn a profit.
Well,
What we do-
you had 5 minutes to think about it, and I'm dying to hear the answer, Mr.
Okay,
Fox.
We have
Well, what-
existing past debt.
We have existing past debt, but even that totally aside, we bring in big DJs. We bring in big talented DJs that bring a lot of people. We have to sometimes fly them from other cities. Once to twice a month, we're flying in DJs from other cities, and they could cost anywhere from $300 to $1,500. And so it's like, and yes, on those nights that we have $1,500 DJs, more people will come. We'll have maybe 250, 300 people down there.
Really?
But at the same time, if you do the math on that, 300 people at $5 a head, that's breaking even. And so it's for the most
I
part.
wouldn't run a business where I was just breaking even.
But we love it. It's like something that we care about the
It's
music.
our
It's like a
child.
charity.
It's not charity, but
it's like a creative thing.
Now let's get back to the lawsuit, now that I've tortured them sufficiently. Tell me about the creation of this website that you discussed with them and what the financial arrangement was.
Okay, back in August, while we were at the Sunday night club, Ian approached us with the offer that if we agreed to be in charge of...
I didn't approach them.
I didn't ask you anything yet.
That if we agreed to be in charge of certain duties such as talent management, video recording, hosting interviews, and all this is for the website. Mike here is a graphic designer, so he helped out with a lot of the graphics for the website. And also, I did a lot of the articles for the website, and he also is a resident DJ. And if we were to be responsible solely for these duties for 6 months, that he would give us $2,000. And we haven't been paid.
Did you do what you were supposed to do on the
Yes.
website?
It was more than just a website, too.
Tell me what you did. See,
well-
you can't talk. Good.
What we do is live video of the DJs that they bring in. We put those on the website. In fact, as an added bonus...
So you videotape?
I videotape them, yeah. And I've also has them on my website,
With a what?
whosmoke.com. I've put the stuff that I've recorded, I put it on my website, which is like a nice thing to do because web space costs money. So I do donate a little bit of mine. But we do interviews.
Donate.
Well, donate as a friendly gesture, exactly. It's
Did
donation.
I say anything to you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Me and Julia were dating, so
not
I thought it was friends working together to better the club.
And later today,
Who's Tamara?
I was a made-up person.
So you lied to the police?
I was drunk, so I was just mumbling at words.
Hey, don't try to get over on me. I'm smarter than you'll ever be in your whole life.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Julia Chan and her business partner, Michael Williams, say they designed a website for club promoter Ian McDonald. Judy and Michael claim they've never been paid.
So you had this discussion with him, and he said, let's do the work for 6 months, let's get it up and running, and then I'll give you $2,000. 6 months came and went. You did what you were supposed to do. No money.
Yeah.
Now you can talk.
The reality of the agreement is me and Julia were dating, so we were close. I felt comfortable with her, and I know Mike's work on PooSmoke.com. I felt comfortable with him. We sat down as friends to talk about the future of compression. It's not, we did not approach them, this is what we need. Do you want to like have a job? It was, let's sit down, we're friends, let's talk about what we want to do in the future with the club. Let's talk about the website, let's talk about artist management, everything, like they said. And in that conversation, you know, we talked about potential money that can be made, which I said, I can see money being made. I can see $2,000 being made for you guys if you put in a good 6 months of work. I didn't think that this was a situation of like, they're trying to find a day job and I'm the one who's going to pay their bills. I thought it was friends working together to better the club.
Oh, my goodness gracious me. Mr. McDonald, let me explain something to you. You made an agreement with these people. You said, listen, we're starting up this club. We're trying to get it off the ground. I can't afford to pay anything right now. But if you do certain things, 6 months from now, the club's going to be up and running. We're going to be making some money. And I can see paying you $2,000 for the work that you do. Your club's up and running. Your club's making money. There's no question in my mind that your club is making money because that's how you two guys are supporting yourself primarily. And with all the money that you're saving by not paying taxes like the rest of us schnooks, you can afford to pay them $2,000. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It never was a job in the first place.
Business-wise, I've been screwed enough to not get screwed anymore, and this was an agreement.
If I could put in my little 2 cents, I'll tell you what changed her mind, and it's that he broke up with her.
I don't know what to say about that, honestly. I think it's completely made up.
I think she was like secretly like in love with him more than she admitted, and I think that she had to take it to this level because she wasn't satisfied with what was going on personally between them.
I don't want it to be a he said, she said thing, but there's no vendetta on my part.
Don't work with friends.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kime versus Cameron. Step forward, please.
19-year-old telemarketer Janae Kime is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old landscaper Wade Cameron, for crashing her car by pulling the emergency brake while she was driving.
Miss Kime, according to your complaint, you were driving the defendant's car home from some sort of an event because he was intoxicated and couldn't drive. You got into an accident, you caused a great deal of damage to another car, and you were ordered to pay restitution, and you believe that the defendant should pay that restitution because it was his fault, because he pulled the emergency brake.
Correct.
Which caused you to skid out of control and hit the other car. The defendant says he did, in fact, pull the emergency brake, but he pulled it because you were driving erratically. That's your defense.
Yes.
How do you know each other?
We're dating.
How old are you?
19.
And you?
24.
What was the date of the accident?
January 3rd, 2002.
Where were you coming from?
We were coming home from a party that night.
Had you gone together?
Yes.
Just the two of you?
No, there was 3 other people with us in the car.
Were the other 3 people in the back of the car intoxicated?
Yes.
But you were not?
I was not.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janae Kime says ex-boyfriend Wade Cameron caused her car to crash when he abruptly pulled the emergency brake.
Okay. Now, tell me about the accident.
I was driving his car home from the party. Everything was all right. We were like 2 houses down from his house, and then all of a sudden he pulls up the emergency brake, and the car that I'm driving slides into this parked car, and the owners of the car were sitting in the car at that time. And so I pulled the car around the block and parked it at his house, and then we all went down to make sure that everything was okay. And I was in shock when this all happened at the time, you know, because it was such like a dramatic experience that I went through, and it brought back memories of...
Don't give me your memories. I'm not interested in your memories.
Okay.
So you went back to see if everybody was okay.
Right, and Wade had told me at the time that he had insurance on his car, so I figured everything was taken care of. I was in shock, so I left. And
you left before the police arrived?
Right. And I called him the next day, and I asked him what was going on. He gave me the number of the officer in Boulder that was handling the case. So I called her and let her know that I was driving the car, and then a couple days after that, I went up there. She wrote me a ticket, and then I went to court after that.
How did you contact the police, sir?
How did I contact the police? They contacted me.
You did. When?
The following day, or that evening.
So what did you tell them that evening?
I told them basically we were coming back from the party, and they were assuming that I was driving, but I wasn't, and because the person that was driving left the scene of the crime, so they were trying to direct it towards me. But I told them what happened, and that she had taken off, and they wanted a description of her and everything, and then that once that I'd gotten contact with her, to have her contact them.
Let me see the police report. Did you first tell the police that somebody else was driving the car, sir?
They were asking who it was, and I was describing what it was, and I didn't exactly say what she'd look like.
Who's Tamara?
I was a made-up person.
So you lied to the police?
Well, I didn't know her name exactly at the time. Like,
you didn't know whose name?
Well, I was drunk, so I was just mumbling out words.
Hey, don't try to get over on me. I'm smarter than you'll ever be in your whole life. Bird, do you have a piece of paper there?
I do.
Good. I want you to give her a piece of paper and give him a piece of paper, and I want each of them to write down, prior to today, when the last time was that each of these people saw each other, spent any time with each other. Do you understand my question? Prior to today.
Okay.
You need a pen? You need an extra pen? I want them to do it independently.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Look over here, sir. Eyes front. Write down the date.
The exact...
Write down the date that each of you remembers that you spent any time together prior to today's date. I'll take them. Thank you.
His, hers, yours.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. Now, what did you have to pay restitution for, by the way?
I had to pay restitution for $6,839 for the whole damage to the car that I hit.
Because he didn't have insurance?
Right, and yet he told me he did.
When did he tell you he did?
He told me he did that night before I was going to drive his car, because I was planning on driving them home anyways. And I was like, you have insurance, right? He's like, yes, I
Oh,
do.
sure, you asked him, do you have insurance? Oh, do I
No,
believe that?
I really did.
Do I believe that?
I really
Sure, I do believe that. You said to him, I'll drive your car because you're drunk. By the way, do you have insurance? I want to tell you something. I think that all of you people got together and made up a very good story. That's what I think. It's not going to wash with me. I don't believe he pulled the emergency brake. I believe the car spun out of control. Did you have a driver's license?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Mm-hmm. Good. After this whole thing happened, did he accept full responsibility?
We had had conversations, about this happening, and he promised that he would pay me $200 a month for all the restitution bills, because I have to pay $200 a month for the next 4 years for this car that he wrecked.
How much longer did you date after this incident?
We didn't date at all after this. The only time that we saw each other was just to converse about this, about the case, and about what would
Really?
happen.
Where were you?
It had been maybe at his house a couple times when I'd go up there.
At his house a couple of times?
Yeah, when I would go up there to go try to get the money, because I couldn't get a hold of him because he was avoiding my calls.
Okay. And when was the last time you saw him to ask him for money?
Last time that I saw him was a couple months ago. The last time I asked him for money was a couple weeks ago before I or probably about 3 weeks ago before I went and filed the case in Boulder.
And where were you when you asked him for the money?
I was at my house on the phone the last time.
When was the last time you saw him?
The last time that I saw him was...
At his house, at your house?
At his
for
house?
Coffee, something.
No, I just asked him for money. It was probably about 2 months ago.
And when was the last time you say you saw her?
Last time I saw her was when we went to court for that.
Which was when?
When I don't know the exact date when that court date was, but we had the same court date, so that's the last time I saw her.
Uh-huh. And did you tell the judge in court that you had pulled, that this was all your fault?
Basically, just to get it was already.
I'm asking you a question.
Yes.
Did you tell the judge in court that the accident was all your fault? The answer is yes or no.
Yes.
What did the judge say to you?
Ms. Cannon.
Good. Thank you, Bird.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Bird, would you do me a favor, please? You know that pesky fly that we had around here a couple of months ago?
Yep.
Well, he's been resurrected. So could you get me one of those little things that you got me before this?
No problem.
Thank you very much. And Miss Pickering and Mr. Cannon look like two well-behaved people, so I can manage without you for a minute.
Be right back.
Thank you. Miss Pickering, according to your complaint, you and the defendant were in a relationship and you made a loan to him. It was a loan so that he could take a trip, some sort of a bus trip, a sports trip with some other men. And you want the money back because the relationship is over.
Yes.
Mr. Cannon says that there was never a loan, that this was sort of a quid pro quo because he had arranged for refinancing on your house at some point. I know you're smiling. We'll get to it.
Okay.
He had arranged for refinancing on your house, saved you a whole bunch of money, and you agreed that he would be paid by you financing this trip. That's your defense.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss. Yeah.
I know it was on the lip. Anyway, thank you. So, Ms. Pickering, were you and the defendant living together?
No, Your Honor, we were not. We were dating.
Objection.
Listen to me. Listen. Don't interrupt her. Do you understand?
Yes,
you will have an opportunity to speak when she's finished.
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
When I divorced my husband and moved back to South Carolina, Mr. Cannon was one of the people contracted to move my furniture back to South Carolina from Georgia. I was reintroduced to him at that time. We went to middle school together. Immediately after I returned, we began dating.
But never lived together?
Never lived together, but he spent most of the time with me. It was very, we talked about getting married. He talked about how it was destiny for us to be together.
Stop.
Don't frustrate me.
Yes, ma'am. I was just saying, let's get to
No.
Yes.
When I look at your direction and ask you a question, you're going to speak.
Yes, ma'am.
Other than that, you're not going to speak.
Okay.
So when I said you didn't live together, the answer was we didn't live together, we dated.
We dated.
Right. Tell me about this loan that you made to him, when that was, because there were two parts of the loan.
Exactly. Mr. Cannon and I had been supportive of each other, making small loans back and forth financially to help each other out when needed during the time that we dated. This particular occasion, in October, he sponsored a trip for
October
the guys.
Of what year?
October of 2001. He sponsored a trip to a Falcons football game in Atlanta. At some point, he did not have the money to pay for the tickets. So he asked me if he could borrow the money.
How much money did he need?
It was $960 for the tickets. Although we had exchanged money before loaning process, I felt very uncomfortable with this amount.
Well, had the previous loans been smaller loans?
They had been much smaller, $50, $100, $150. So, and it had been repaid. Because I felt uncomfortable, I wrote the check to the travel agency.
Can I see that, please?
I would not write it to him, nor would I give him cash. I was under the assumption that when the guys boarded the bus, that they would pay the remaining balance. When they returned from the trip, I heard of how wonderful it was.
When was the trip?
The trip was in November.
Okay.
I heard of how wonderful it was and received a magnet, but not my money.
Okay.
At that point, I did not question him about it. I was hoping that he would do the right thing because, once again, this is someone I wanted to marry. Later on, in the 11th, November, he also borrowed money again and again in December.
Well, what did he borrow money in November for?
I I was under the impression that it was Christmas gifts. During this time, I've been throwing hints that I wanted an engagement ring. I'm hoping that this was for that purpose.
So you were giving him money hoping that he would buy you a ring?
I was giving him money hoping that it would help him purchase the Christmas gifts for his children and then have extra to do what I wanted him to do.
How much did you give him in November?
In November, I gave him a check of $135, and I clearly marked on there that it was a loan. And in December, I also gave a check of $50, and I marked that that was a loan as well.
Miss Pickering, he hadn't paid you back the October money yet. Why are you giving him more money?
At that time, we were talking about moving in together. I was, lack of a better judgment, I was a fool for love.
All right. Okay. I'm not interested in these two little loans. I'm not interested in that because that comes under the category of stupidity. If you lend somebody almost $1,000 and they don't pay you back when they get off the bus, and you lend them another $50 and another $135, then you're not too smart.
But once again, Your Honor, he was promising me the whole time, making promises. This is someone.
Promises of what?
Of commitment, of relationships.
Just a second,
repaying.
I don't care about commitment relationship. That's not my job. You want to go commitment relationship, go on Jerry Springer. If you want to come here, this is a court. Court,
Exactly.
you talk about if he's making statements to you, he's making statements about returning the money.
Exactly.
That's all I'm interested in.
And he had returned money in the past, and I indicated that it was a loan on the check.
I understand that, madam. You're not following me. If you give somebody almost $1,000, which you said to me a moment ago was more money than you had ever given them, and you thoroughly expected him to have the money as soon as he put his keister back on land where you were, and all he gave you was a magnet.
Yes, sir.
Right? Then when he comes to you and says, I need another $135, I need another $50, you say, you're not getting another penny, my dear, until I get back my $960. And if you do, deal with it. And I don't want to hear about commitment. Commitment, we go someplace else. Commitment, we don't deal with here. All right. Let me hear from you.
I'm glad you settled that for me, Your Honor.
Don't thank me yet. I'm not finished with you. Where's her $960?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So I, being the wonderful person that I am, tried to save her a lot of money by letting her go through one of my mortgage brokers.
What did that cost you?
It didn't cost me anything. What it did saved her thousands.
Right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kendra Pickering says ex-boyfriend Charles Cannon owes for the cost to attend a football game with his friends. Charles says he saved her thousands by helping to refinance her mobile home.
Go ahead.
Actually, it should be a balance of $40 owed to me.
Just tell me where, honey.
Because at the time, right before, I think it was right around September, I was working part-time selling mobile homes. By doing that, I was involved and had relationships with several different mortgage companies. At the time, Ms. Pickering was talking about getting a house refinanced. She had went around to several different other mortgage companies.
I did not.
I don't want to hear you.
Thank you.
Talking. Keep talking. I can multitask.
Actually, she was thinking about refinancing the house through the mortgage company she was in at the time that she was thinking about refinance. So I, being the wonderful person that I am, tried to save her a lot of money by letting her go through one of my mortgage brokers.
And what did that cost you?
Actually, it didn't cost me anything. What it did, it saved her thousands.
Right. Didn't cost you anything.
So, I agreed. I said, well, look, she's getting $13,000 back. I said, well, I agree to set you up with the guy. Just give me a $1,000 referral fee.
What kind of character are you?
We wasn't in a relationship. This is kind of a
character
her
are you?
imagination of this marriage.
Listen to me. What kind of character are you?
Wonderful. You know,
No. Not wonderful. Not
I had
wonderful.
to pay. Could you quit
Not
asking?
wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
And don't tell me no relationship, because although I'm not entertaining these things, clearly she gave you this money.
Well, it wasn't to the extent that she's saying, you know.
Don't give me extent. Whether you have a little extent, sir, that's your problem, or a bigger extent, that's maybe everybody's problem. He has a smaller extent, he won't acknowledge that.
Well,
listen to me very carefully. If you have even a smaller extent relationship, which will be your long-term problem.
Yes, ma'am.
Or not.
Yes, ma'am.
If you are in a relationship with somebody and intimate with somebody, and if they need something and it doesn't cost you anything, because you know somebody who could help her out getting refinancing for her house and you hook her up with that person, then you don't be a pig and say, well, I'm saving you all this money, so why don't you give me a little bit of money, because I saved you all that money. You say, I'm glad I could do something nice for you.
I mean, but
I mean,
I was
but,
only doing the American way.
But do it the American way with somebody else that you're not sleeping with, sir.
Well, Your Honor,
Well,
this
don't
was
give
not...
me, well, Your Honor. You owe her $960. She gave it to you. Why don't you give the money back to her and say finished?
My point is, the big point is, this was not an issue until she came to my house one evening. I said, look, I don't want to be bothered. Okay, this was over a year after. She didn't file this till after a year after.
I don't want to hear. Yeah, so?
It wasn't a big issue till she came to my house.
Yeah.
Way out of control. I said, look, I don't want to be bothered. I'm ready to move on. And the police department had to come by. They told her, look, ma'am, you need to leave. And then she came up with the issues about the money. And they said, well, if that's the problem, you need to go file it in court.
So if this lady is saying to you, this is standing in the way of my moving forward, clearly you benefited from this money. Clearly I gave it to you, $960.
Yes, ma'am.
I feel as if I've been used. You don't want a relationship anymore, and you don't want to return the money. Relationship, I can't force you. But the money, I want you to pay me. Then you give her the money. It didn't cost you any money, right?
I didn't
So
get
you
my
act like a
referral fee.
man, whether you have a big commitment or a little commitment. You give her back the money. $960, judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He knows that he's made promises of love, commitment, gave me a ring at Christmas, and now he denies all of this?
It was spoken about.
I'm just in awe at how he could lie.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Oliveira versus Rodriguez. Step forward, please.
Painter Alejandro Oliveira is suing his ex-girlfriend, machinist Evie Rodriguez, for the return of his belongings and for vandalizing his van.
Mr. Oliveira, it is your claim that Miss Rodriguez, who used to be your girlfriend, vandalized your car and kept some of your property when she decided to terminate the relationship because she allegedly saw your vehicle in a motel, and she wasn't at the motel. She says she didn't touch your car, and you had plenty of time to get your property, and she doesn't have your property anymore. How long were you going out with her?
About 2 years.
Did you live together?
Yes.
And tell me when she vandalized your car.
The night that she seen my van at a hotel room.
What night was that?
Oh, I'm not sure the exact date, but
Better be sure, because if you're not sure, I can't hear your case.
in the middle of July, I would say like July 15th.
And where were you at the time that you observed her damaging your car?
I was at my friend Jacob's house.
Had you seen Miss Rodriguez at the motel? Did she try to get your attention?
Yes.
How did she try to get your attention, Mr. Oliveira?
She was yelling out my name, come out, and asking me to come out, and I wouldn't come out.
Okay, and you waited until she left?
Yes.
And what happened when you got to Jacob's house?
I was gonna stay the night there, and then
She thought that would be a good idea.
yeah, I heard some things going on outside. The same thing, pounding on the door, telling me to come outside. I wouldn't come outside, so then.
Why not?
Because I didn't want to deal with this girl, and she started bashing my windshield and my back window.
You have photographs?
No, I don't.
Why not?
I just didn't even think about doing that.
So why are you thinking about suing her now?
Because she took some personal belongings when we lived together, and I wanted them back. She wouldn't give them back, so.
Like what?
Couches, living room set, clothes.
You lived together for 2 years, sir. Are these things that you purchased when you were living together?
No, I had them prior.
When, for the first time, did you ask her for this property?
After we separated, and.
Well, you separated, I assume, on July 15th.
Sure.
Yeah.
The day after, I'm gonna go get my stuff. She had already locked the doors. Then one day after that incident, she had threw all my things outside and said I better go and get them before somebody takes them.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Alejandro Oliveira says ex-girlfriend Evie Rodriguez won't return his personal property.
Why didn't you go over there?
I was just drinking and I didn't want to drive, so I waited till next day.
Oh, and what happened to all your stuff?
They were there, and I took the things I can, like small things, but I couldn't carry couches and the bigger things by myself, so I just waited. Yeah. And I told her to put the stuff back inside, and she refused to. Then she said they got stolen, but I know she took them because I seen them at her sister's house when I peeped through a window.
So the couches in her sister's house?
Yeah.
Does your sister have his couches?
No.
No? Who has his couches?
I told different people that there's stuff outside. If you want it, go get it.
Good. Well, that's good. So they took him.
Yeah.
They came and they took it.
Yeah.
Did you bust his windows on his car?
No.
You didn't bust
You had a right to. You had a right to, in your own mind, I'm sure you thought, right?
I'm not the kind of person to do that. So.
Well, what I don't understand, Mr. Oliveira, is that if somebody vandalized my car like that and you want them to pay for it and you want to bring a lawsuit, you take a photograph of what the car looks like.
True, but at the time it happened, I didn't even think about taking it to court, you know.
So what do you want me to do?
Actually, I just want to get my couches back, and she
She
has
doesn't
them.
have your couches.
She does have them.
No. She told somebody, she put your couches out along with all the other property. You said you came by, you didn't come by that night because you'd been drinking. You came by the next day, you took some of the things that you wanted. She says, she called all of her friends and says, there's a bunch of junk outside. If you want to come and get it, you come and get it. Maybe her sister wanted the junky couches. She came and got the couches.
She has no right to give things away. That's not hers anyway, so...
Yeah?
She shouldn't have did that in the first place. That's not right.
Just a second. You shouldn't have given away the couches if you gave them away. I'm telling you. She shouldn't have. What were you doing at the motel?
Just partying, whatever.
Really? The night before, this happened on the 15th of July. On the 14th of July, where were you?
I was there at the apartment where we lived at.
Yeah. Did you have dinner together that night?
Sure.
Do you have children?
Nope.
Do you have children?
I have one.
How old is your child?
He's 12.
Does he live with you?
Yes.
Oh, I have 2 children, but not with her.
So you have 2 children?
Yes, I do. I thought you
Oh.
meant if I had some
No,
with her.
no. Not with her.
No.
And not with the person you were in the motel with, I assume.
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So, did you tell Miss Rodriguez that you were going to spend an evening in a motel with somebody on the 15th?
Nope.
Why not?
We were having troubles at the time. We were breaking up.
Really?
So,
When did you tell her that?
I never told her. It just things were happening.
Mr. Oliveira, you have no pictures of your car vandalized. So I can't tell, A, if it was vandalized at all, and B, whether she did it.
She did do it. I just thought she would come up to it and say that she did because she knows
She's
she
not.
did.
And as far as your property is concerned, she called you and said to you, oh, by the way, you still living in the same apartment or the
No.
same house?
I moved out.
And you didn't move back into that place, did you?
No.
Where did you go to live?
At my friend's house where the night that
At
she came and
Jacob's
broke in.
house?
Yes.
You're still living there at Jacob's?
Yes.
No, you're not, Mr. Oliveira?
I am.
Full time.
What do you mean full time, Mom?
You sleep there all the time?
Yeah.
Every night?
That's where I'm staying at now.
Uh-huh, right. So you paying any rent to Jacob?
It's not, well, it's not actually his house, it's his mother's house. But
Oh, really?
yes.
So you have your own room there?
Ms. Higgins. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats, please.
Mr. Perdue,
Good morning.
good morning. According to your complaint, sir, you gave the defendant rings pursuant to a relationship that the two of you were in,
Yes.
and she was living with you for a brief period of time, and you claimed that there was a promise that if the relationship did not turn out, she would give you the rings back. You claimed that the relationship did not work out, she left, and you don't have the rings.
Yes, ma'am.
The second part of your lawsuit is a claim for a small loan. I think it was $40-some-odd, in order to permit her to get a restraining order against a boyfriend of hers who was supposed to be an abusive boyfriend,
Yes, ma'am.
who she subsequently went back to.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want that money back.
Yes.
And Miss Higgins says that she did not have a relationship with you, that she was really nothing more than a housekeeper for you, a housekeeper/companion, that the rings were a gift. However, when you said you wanted them back, she went over to your house and threw them in your yard. Is that
Yes,
right?
Your Honor.
How long have you known her, Mr. Perdue?
Approximately 9 months.
Where did you meet her?
Met her in a bar. She was my buddy's girlfriend at the time. I met her. And
Right.
before the night was over, she was sucking my fingers and everything, wanting to...
Your Honor,
you know,
that's a lie. Listen to me. I don't want you to get into anything that I don't have to hear
Well,
in order to
I'm-
make this lawsuit. Do you understand? There are certain things that I don't have to hear graphically. She was making advances towards you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Within a week, she had broke up with this guy, and she called me and wanted me to move her out of there and move her into my house.
How did she get your home telephone number?
Oh, I was more than anxious. I mean, I was a willing party at the time.
Okay,
You
go
know,
ahead.
I was impressed with her, and she was a hot number in my book. But within a week, she'd moved into my house. I tried to, lead a normal life and everything, but she just didn't have it in her. 3 days or so, and she'd be gone all night. Then she'd come back in the morning, smelling like a billy goat, and I'd kick her out, and then the telephone calls would come back again, and we're back in another relationship again. This girl needs help. She doesn't have a job.
No, she doesn't need help. You need help.
Yeah, okay, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Tell me about the rings, sir.
Okay, I'd bought the rings in 1987 for my
what?
wife, and she's deceased of 3 years. And because Liz always identified so much, she told me, she says, I feel so close to your wife and everything. I know. Yes, I give her my rings. And I told her at the time I gave them to her, because we had such a rocky relationship, we've been together and kicked her out several times. I've had the police drag her out from the door. Anyway, when I gave them to her, I says, because these rings mean so much to me, if this doesn't work out, I have to have the rings back. She agreed. We were engaged 3 days.
You mean when you gave her the rings, you thought that they were given as an engagement?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, did you ask her to marry you?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you say to her?
I said, Liz, will you marry me? She says, yes. To me, that was a contract. 3 days later, she stayed out all night. I presume now it was with Ken.
This is the boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
This was the one that the $42 is about. But where was I now?
You were giving her the rings that were so sentimentally valid for you because you had bought them for your deceased wife in 1987, and you gave them to somebody who came home every third night smelling like a billy goat.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
That's where you were.
She just 3 days we were engaged. She goes out that night, spends out all night long. I don't know where she was or anything. I broke off the engagement. I'm driving her back to her mother's house. And she says, Bill, please let me have the rings for a couple of days. I says, why do you want the rings? She says, I want to save face in front of my family, my wife, my mother, and my kids. I says, okay, but I've got to have them back. When I went to get them back, she absolutely refused.
Okay. And then she's going to tell me that when you said, give me the rings, I want the rings, I want the rings, she came over to your house and you threw them in the yard. Is that right?
What happened was he had started driving by my house and calling all the time. And one day he came over and all I had on was a T-shirt. He came in and he tried to hug me and he grabbed my breasts. At the time,
Would you get to the rings, please?
Okay, I was with Ken. Okay.
Good for you. Would you
Ken
get to
told
the
me
rings,
flat out,
please?
this is what he said. He said, I want you to prove that you're done with Bill Perdue officially, okay? So we got in his van, he drove, we drove by, and I threw the rings in his yard and called to let him know that they were there.
You're an idiot. All right. Strike you. Strike you. Now, let me go through this with you, Mr. Perdue. She told you at some point in between her going out in the evening that she had to get a restraining order against him. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you say to her?
I went with her down to the town court. We did file a temporary restraining order. I gave her the money. She filed it. A month later, you go back and make it permanent in front of a judge. But the night before, we'd gone out for a couple of drinks, and she started to fight for no reason. I've got no idea why she's so mad, but she's starting to fight. So I says, you got to fight. I said, I don't care. But she said, okay, I'm going to court tomorrow by myself.
Your Honor, there was no argument.
Shh. I found out that she went to court. As soon as Ken walked in, they went outside for a long time. She came back in and dropped charges on that very day.
Fine, that still doesn't make this a loan, sir. Mr. Perdue. It doesn't make it a loan.
She asked me for the money.
Your Honor, he told me he was giving me the money.
Miss Higgins, don't interrupt me. That doesn't make it a loan, Mr. Perdue. She asked you for the money. You gave her the money.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a gift. That's not a loan. So let's just deal with the rings. All right. Now, Miss Higgins, I want you to tell me your version of the rings.
Okay, he had bought these rings, okay? They were sitting in his house, okay, in a box. Finally, one night he comes and he says, he looks right at me and he says, Liz, I know, and these are exact words, I know that you're probably never going to marry me, but I bought these for you. They're your rings. I took the rings. It's that simple.
So you were really nothing more than a housekeeper for him.
He and I...
Shh. That's what you say in your answer, that you took care of the house, you cleaned up, you cooked, and you were a companion. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So it was a job.
It wasn't necessarily a job. I mean, we were both benefiting from it. I was staying there and taking a break from my house, and my mom's handicapped, and I take care of her. So I was taking a break from that. And he was benefiting by eating and having his house cleaned.
So that It was a barter arrangement, but still a job. You got free room and board, and he got his house cleaned.
Right.
And his refrigerator replenished with cooked food.
That's right, Your Honor. I bought the groceries.
Shh. Then can you explain to me why he would say to an employee, you're probably never going to marry me, but I bought these rings for you?
Because
so you answer me.
That's the reason I left, Your Honor, because he started getting obsessive. And at one point in time, he started referring himself to me as Daddy.
Okay, let me ask you this question, Ms. Higgins. Do you believe that if you hadn't taken the rings and encouraged a relationship, if I believe your story, you say, no, I'm not, Mr. Perdue, I'm not taking these rings from you because you're right, I'm not going to marry you. I am your housekeeper. Do you think that he would have become obsessive?
He was already, before we had lived together prior to this, he had already become obsessive. See, he and I stayed with him for a while before. When he was telling you that he met me through a boyfriend I had at the time,
yes.
Okay? And I would invite him over at that time to cook meals for him, okay? Because I knew his wife had just died. I had heard all kinds of different things about him.
Okay.
So anyway, back then, he asked me to come and stay, okay? And he was missing home-cooked meals, and at the time, that's all he wanted, okay? And I was staying with him. Then he began wanting more, and he wanted sex and different things, and I moved out at that time, too. Now, this time, he promised me it would be different.
Now, what prompted you, if he wanted all of these things, what prompted you to move back there?
Because we had been friends without me living there. We had just remained friends.
Is there any reason, Miss Higgins, why when Genius over here told you that he wanted to know that you were finished with Mr. Perdue once and for all, and according to you, you drove by the house and threw the rings in the yard, you couldn't do the civilized thing, which would have been to put the rings in a box, take it to the post office, and mail it to him?
Your Honor, at that time I was very angry because the reason this conversation between Ken and I even started in the first place. In fact, can I call him up here, Your Honor, for this?
Oh, I would love to hear from him.
I can. But anyway, the thing is that I was angry because he was driving by the house and we were getting phone calls, and my kids had told me.
Why didn't you just give him back the rings?
Because my kids had told me.
Why didn't you just give him?
I didn't want to see him.
Why didn't you just give him back the rings?
He was obsessed with me, and I didn't want to see him.
You don't have to see him. Mail him back the rings.
I was extremely angry.
What were you angry about?
Because my kids had come to me and told me that he was trying to bribe my kids.
Why didn't you just return the rings?
I was angry, and I just went and threw them in his yard, and I called him and told him there they were.
Listen.
Because his threats, he was threatening that somebody was looking around for him to beat him up and everything else. And I was so fed up with the guy.
You want to say anything to me?
Yes, Your Honor. Her and I have had a rocky relationship, but the thing is, I'm tired of the phone calls from him. It's 7 o'clock in the morning every day. He's come in between our relationship enough times. Well, he was a nice guy when I met him, but he got worse and worse, and it just conflict between him and I. He would kind of come by the house in the middle of the night.
You don't think that she's partially responsible for that?
I think they're both responsible for some things.
Fine, right. The fact that you are not sleeping with him, sir, doesn't mean that he's more responsible than she is. She took advantage
Your Honor,
of him.
I wasn't sleeping with him.
I didn't say you sleeping with him, madam. I said the fact that he's not sleeping with him.
Oh, okay.
You see, the reason he's angry with him is because why should he be angry with you? The two of you share a bed together. He says you're equally responsible. The two of you are equally responsible. Well, the reason he's mad at him instead of you is because he sleeps with you, and he doesn't sleep with him. Now, do you understand that? That may be confusing to you. Not you.
No, I
him.
understand.
Now, you understand. All right? So, they're equally responsible, but not really. She's more responsible. You want me to tell you why? Is your name Ken?
Yes, ma'am.
Ken.
Judge.
There's no fool like an old fool. He's an old fool. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Got a younger woman, makes him feel younger, makes him feel stronger, gets a little obsessive. She encourages him a little bit. She encourages him a lot because she's got to get away from one boyfriend, she moves in with him. She's got to get away from you because things aren't good, she moves in with him. She moves in with him, then she takes off and goes with you. She gets a restraining...
Your Honor, that's not
Quiet! She gets a restraining order, preliminary restraining order against you. She's saying, poor me, I'm a poor victim, everybody's abusing me. And she said a lot of things about you in order to get a restraining order, sir. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is.
What did she say about you in the restraining order? Did she say that you were abusive?
Yes.
Did she say that you were threatening?
Yes.
Did she say that she was afraid of you?
Yes.
Was all that true?
Parts.
Parts, but parts not?
Parts not.
Were you abusive?
At times.
Really? Were you physically abusive?
There was some pushing every once in a while.
Every once in a while. He never pushed her.
That's not what I was told either.
No, just a minute. A little obsessive, maybe. But didn't do half the things to her that you did. And then she made up some stuff along the way, according to you. when she made out that report, right?
I'd assume so.
What do you mean you assume so? You got a copy of it, sir. You read it, right? That's why you showed up in the courthouse that day. And when you saw it, Ken, did you say to yourself, she's lying about some of this stuff? She's a liar?
Well, see, I didn't ask her any questions. I had no contact.
Did you say to yourself, she's a liar? I never did
parts of
that.
it.
On some of the stuff you did, right? So here we have two people on one side, and you now tell me that she's a liar.
I don't say fully
A liar!
Oh,
If you
any
lie,
way
if
you'd
you
like to put it, Your
swear
Honor.
to an application for a protective order under penalties of perjury, and you lie, that makes you a liar.
Yeah.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
She threatened my mother. She threatened all of my friends. She threatened to put antifreeze in my dog's food bowl.
You have to stop.
I have.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to stop.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Bill Perdue says ex-fiancée Elizabeth Higgins owes for the cost of 2 heirloom rings. Elizabeth says she threw the rings into his front yard.
Listen to me. I find that these rings were given as an engagement gift in contemplation of getting married. And when Miss Higgins accepted it, she may not have been serious about accepting them as an engagement ring.
Yes.
She may not have been serious, but she led you to believe she was serious. I don't believe her story that she was the housekeeper and cook your chicken every other Tuesday and Thursday and maybe a brisket on Friday. I don't believe that.
No.
And if she wanted to return them, then she does the reasonable thing. If she, in fact, returned them at all by throwing them in your yard, she puts them in the mail and returns them. So I don't believe she returned them at all. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,850. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm very glad she's got a new outfit. She looks like a kind of little Catholic girl.
We were just true friends, and I truly believe that. I believed he was a good friend to me, but obviously I was wrong.
I think I'll probably start going to church now instead of hanging in the bars picking up women.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Leonard versus Norris. Step forward, please.
23-year-old bartender Amanda Leonard is suing her boyfriend's estranged wife, 22-year-old market research analyst Jennifer Norris, for harassment.
Miss Leonard, you are in the process of dating the defendant's present husband, soon to be her ex-husband, and it is your claim that the defendant has been harassing you. 30 seconds or less. Tell me how she's harassing you.
Yes, ma'am. It started a long time ago. After they broke up, she cheated on her husband and moved to Reno before we ever started dating. I have a tape, I have an audio tape of the very last message she left me after I had told her that I had already made a police report on her. She's still...
Fine, I'll hear it. Why did you say such nasty things to her, Miss Norris?
And that's...
I know I made these harassing calls, and I know it was wrong.
Why didn't you acknowledge that when you filed your answer in this case, Miss Norris?
I was very, very angry.
Why were you angry?
She was my friend, and I kept telling her, you know, I feel like Travis is cheating on me. I feel like something's going on with somebody else. And I never told her that I thought it was her because I didn't want to make her feel awkward, you know. And then it was her. And they had been together for, in my mind, I'm thinking about a year that they were messing around. And he kept telling me, no, I'm just selling drugs to her because he's, you know, they are drug addicts and stuff. And I was very angry because I thought she was my friend. And I realized that that was the wrong thing to do, was call and make those things.
When was the last time you made a harassing call to her?
I don't even remember the last time.
When was the last time?
This last message was made on the 31st, I believe, of September.
Of this year?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. I live in Reno, Nevada. I have no reason, you know, I live 3 states away.
Doesn't make any difference. Phones reach 3 states away.
I didn't call her. I mean, that's fine if, you know, that's what they're saying.
You have to stop.
I have
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to stop.
Yes, ma'am.
It's finished.
Yes, I realize that.
Over.
I realize that.
What else?
She also threatened my family. She threatened my mother. She threatened all of my friends. She threatened to put antifreeze in my dog's food bowl. She threatened to key my car and slash my tires.
Did she do any of those things?
She didn't do any of those things.
Good. And she's not going to do any of those things, so she's not going to call you anymore. So I want you to be happy in your new life.
I am.
She's not going to bother you anymore. You don't bother her anymore. They're going to get a divorce when?
January 17th. But I have a question. We are not legally separated. There's no paperwork. And I can call over there to speak to my husband.
No,
I have the
call.
right to.
Listen to me. What do you want to talk to him about?
A
Do you have children?
divorce.
Just a minute. Do you have children together?
No.
Do you have a lawyer?
Yes, I do.
Then Whatever you want to say to him, you say through your lawyer.
I just want the divorce done, and they won't help me.
Who won't help you?
They won't, like, go do anything. They won't go file the papers, nothing. And I'm like, I live in Nevada, so I have to wait. In January, it'll be 6 months I've been there, so I will have residency so I can get a divorce there.
Right, Miss Norris, and that's what you do.
That's what I'm trying
Listen
to
to
do.
me. She would probably like you to have a divorce. I'm speaking. She would probably like you to have a divorce. He's not so anxious. He's not so anxious because she wants to get married, right?
Well, eventually, hopefully.
You say eventually, hopefully. Me? She would like to get married tomorrow.
Are you talking to me?
No, I'm not talking to you.
About me, though?
Sort of. Sort of. But I didn't require an answer because I wasn't talking to you. In any event, Miss Norris, in January, which is right around the corner, you are going to be able to get a divorce, whether they are cooperative or not. Don't call him. That's holding on to something that doesn't exist anymore. Move on!
I have definitely
Good.
moved on.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused versus Bourne.
Expert.
You're quite welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
How old are you, Miss Rowland?
19.
According to the complaint that I've read, you were house sitting for the defendant.
Correct.
Right after you graduated from high school, which was when?
June 16th of 2001.
That was just for a month or two?
It was until I left for college on August 18th.
According to your complaint, the defendant was out of town either on business or seeing family. She came back. She threw you out unceremoniously, and she kept some of your property. She says she has none of your property. She is counterclaiming. She says you trashed her house and caused her all kinds of other grief. So, how did you know Miss Bourne?
I had previously hung out with her daughter. You know, I go over to her house every once in a while.
And whose idea was it that you should house sit for her over the summer?
I believe that I had said something to her daughter, Shasta. My parents and I had an agreement that I would move out for the summer.
Why?
So that I could get used to living on my own before I went to college.
That is the biggest crock that I've heard in a long time. That's not what parents do. You move out and you go live someplace else so you get used to living on your own. Never heard of that. Go ahead. Let me hear the rest.
Diane and I had an agreement that I would stay at her house during the summer, pay the water bill, pay the rent, take care of the house, things like that. I moved in on June 17th. She had already been gone for a month. When I got to the home was absolutely thrashed. There was dirt everywhere. The kitchen, I have photos of the kitchen when I got there. My friend Sharon cleaned the kitchen. When I first got into the house, there was a barbecue in the kitchen area, like an outdoor grill. An oil drum was being used as a trash can in the middle of the kitchen. She had an area rug the size of the living room in the living room that was nailed to the hardwood floor. To clean it, I picked it up, took it up and cleaned underneath it. There was about half an inch of dirt, crackers, food, grime. It was absolutely filthy, and I don't live like that, so I cleaned it up. I scrubbed the house on my hands and knees, cleaned the bathroom.
Go ahead. So?
July 3rd of 2001, I had come home with a couple of my friends. We were going to watch a movie, and I saw two cars in the front yard. And the two witnesses she has over there, one of them was the lady in the black was sitting on the porch, along with another lady named Cheryl and Diane's younger daughter. I was very surprised to see them home because I didn't expect them to be home until the end of the summer. And I asked, hey, what's going on? And her daughter, 17-year-old daughter, came out and told me, well, you're indeed. And I said, well, why? And then Diane came out and started screaming obscenities at me, accusing me of vandalizing the house, stealing items that were in the house, things like that.
And she put you out?
She told me that I was to give her house key back, and I said I'm going to need to go get a police officer to come get my stuff with me because she wouldn't let me get any of my things.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did.
And did you get your stuff?
I got some of it. What I could load in my truck, I did when the police officer was there. He had told me that he had to go out on a fight call, so I needed to get what I could and leave. So all of my stuff that was left there was now in her possession.
Well, what do you claim you left there?
A computer, a snowboard, a computer desk, clothes, personal items, things I had purchased for the house, decorations.
I don't care what you did purchase for the house. A computer and a desk and a snowboard. What else?
Just clothes and personal items.
You have her computer and desk?
The computer desk it ended up being donated to a thrift store. It was not a complete desk. There was like a whole side of it was missing.
What about the computer that was on the computer
She
desk?
took the computer the day she had the civil standby.
You have any proof that you left the computer in the house?
I have my witness. She saw that the computer was there when I left, and when she came back the next day, it was gone.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Sharon Smith.
Tell me what you know about this computer.
I was in the house the day that Diane came home.
What were you doing in the house?
I was staying there with Sarah because I was going to be leaving July 8th to go to Washington for college.
So you were living in the house?
Yeah.
Who else was living in the house?
Sarah.
Who else?
That's it. It was just me and Sarah.
Anybody else staying over?
No.
Go ahead.
Well, when I told Diane I wanted to take my things and leave, she wouldn't let me. She said I had to leave my things there. I said, well, can I at least take my purse with me? And she said, yeah, but you have to let me search it first. So I said, okay, I have nothing to hide from you. So I opened my purse. I let her look in it. She saw there was nothing of hers in there, and I had left. I was scared. I didn't know what was going on.
Can we get to the computer, please?
Well, I saw the computer there when I left. I went back the next day with my mom and a police officer to get my things, and her computer desk was no longer there.
What about her snowboard?
I don't know. I assume she took it with her when she came and got a whole truckload of stuff.
How long were you in the house after July 3rd, the date that she left?
I ended up going back to Utah approximately a week or week and a half later.
Now, in the week or week and a half that you were still in the house, the plaintiff and her parents come to the house or attempt to contact you?
The plaintiff did not. Her parents came over the next day, told me the computer actually belonged to them. She went into hiding. I had to get a restraining order because the officer that did the civil standby told me that she was a tenant. She'd never paid a dime. She'd rented rooms to her friends. She had turned my house from just a family home to a party house / bordello.
Now, how do you know that?
Well, photographic evidence, Your Honor. I've got condoms on the front room bookshelf that this young woman was apparently advertising. My family room became their junk room. My daughter's room became their junk room. She shut the door on my daughter's pet rats. No food, no water. They were this big around. They were pet rats. My daughter loved animals, and they were huge. We came home, and they were like this big around. And the one is just hanging on, there's pictures, hanging on the side of the cage, no water. We gave it water.
Was it your arrangement for her to take care of
Yes,
these?
that was why she went. She was over there to feed the animals. There were cats that were so scared to come back to the house. When we left, we couldn't even catch them.
There
the
was
kittens
no agreement
became
to take care of
feral.
animals, Your Honor.
None?
Whatsoever.
Did you know that there were animals in the house?
Yes, she did.
Her daughter came over, Shasta came over once and told me not to open her daughter's bedroom door because there was a rat loose in her daughter Sierra's room.
Did you feed the cat?
No, ma'am. There was no agreement for me to do so.
So what were you supposed to do there?
I was just going to live there and take care of the house, make sure that, nobody came in, I guess, and not...
Well, somebody did come in. You invited her.
I invited her, correct.
That was not part of your agreement.
There were several different... Excuse me.
That was not your agreement.
My agreement was for me to take care of the house.
But it wasn't your agreement for you to invite anybody else to stay with you.
She had told me, be careful who you let in the house. And I trust Sharon. She was in a situation...
You are a very, very good fibber, Miss Rowan. Looks like a major mess.
But I
don't know what it looks like. I want to see which photograph that she has. She says she has a photograph of what the house looked like before. Let me see.
Sharon took these pictures before she cleaned the kitchen. These dishes and stuff was in the kitchen before we got there. This is Sharon.
Sharon?
Yeah.
When did you clean the kitchen?
The first day I was there.
Which was when, Sharon?
That would have been...
That would have been immediately, right?
Well,
when she moved in.
Sarah was there before I was. Sarah
You mean
was there
Sarah
a
was
couple
living
of
like
days.
a pig before you came?
She was in the process of moving her things in for a couple of days, and she asked me if I'd come over and help her clean the house. And I did, and after I cleaned the house, that's when Sarah told me that I could live with her.
Uh-huh. I don't know where your computer is. Haven't a clue. Don't know where your snowboard is. I haven't a clue. She doesn't have it. You breached your agreement with her. Your agreement with her is that she was supposed to stay there, take care of the house, take care of the animals. You did none of that. The house looks pretty trash to me, and in addition, you brought in at least one other tenant without her permission. So who knows where your computer is. You have a counterclaim. I want to see what you claim the damages because you were a tenant in this apartment. So tell me what your out-of-pocket damages were.
My first loss was the loss of my vehicle. I left California to find work. In that part of California, there's just nothing.
Come on.
So I had to leave, take time from my job to come home to deal with that.
And?
All the money that I saved to pay for my car, I ended up losing my car.
All right.
Because I had to quit my job.
A little too far removed. Come on. You're not going to get a new car. What else? Let's go.
I lost a bunch of my personal possessions.
Like what?
Family heirlooms. They broke a chair in my living room. They scratched the hardwood floor.
You're a tenant. I want to know what your out-of-pocket is.
The doors that she ripped
Well, show
the
me
locks
what you
of.
had to pay to the landlord.
I don't have that.
Well, then I can't help you. You have a cleaning bill. I mean, you show me a lot of damage.
The
a lot of
cleaning bill
schmutz
would have
there.
been my own sweat and blood.
Your Honor,
Listen.
I have a statement from the carpet cleaner regarding the
I'm
carpet.
not reading a statement. I don't know who those professional carpet cleaners were. And quite frankly, I don't believe a lot of what you say.
Okay.
You understand that?
I don't believe a lot of what you say. It's too convenient.
I also have an incident report from the police officer
That says?
stating that there was no vandalism in the house.
Oh, I'd like to see that. That I'd like to see.
I wonder if I could see that too.
No,
Your
it
Honor.
just says, listen to me, I'm going to tell you what it says. Everything appears to be code for. Residence is just dirty with clothes. Well, that's pretty much what I saw. Doesn't have to do with vandalism, just being a slob. The place looked like a pig pen.
Your
That's
Honor.
pretty much what she says, because she said she didn't have a professional anybody in there. All she did was, through the sweat of her own body, cleaned up after you. What else? You want to show me a police report?
No, it's just the contract on my car, my down payment on my car that I lost, $5,000.
First of all, you're supposed to use good judgment. You have an 18-year-old that you let move into your house who just graduated from high school. Not necessarily good judgment.
It's not one of my finer moments.
Well, I wouldn't do it. Would you do that?
Well, I didn't have any reason to think that she would screw me over.
Except that she's a high school kid.
I found out later she called me and said her parents had kicked her out because she'd stayed out one night partying, and they were very strict.
That's incorrect, Your Honor.
That is
I don't know what the
grossly
reason
incorrect.
is that you weren't staying with your parents. It certainly wasn't the cock and bull story that you gave me at the beginning of this
She
case.
had stolen
that they
their
wanted
credit
to see
card,
if you
Your
could manage
Honor.
on your own. Listen, you're not entitled to a thing. I don't know where your computer is. I don't know where your snowboard is. I don't know where any of these things are after a year. Madam, you are entitled to nothing as a result of your bad judgment. If you had to clean up after her, that's what you did. The loss of your car is not her fault. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She turned my home into a bordello.
She lived in filth, and I cleaned it up.
She had several overnight guests, males, multitudes of them.
Her family's white trash.
She was a tramp, and she was a troublemaker and a thief.
Don't associate with white trash.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Olenichuk Robinson versus Crandall. Step forward, please.
21-year-old homemaker Jennifer Olenichuk and her boyfriend, carpenter Michael Robertson, are suing their former friend, 22-year-old fast food worker Jennifer Crandall, for money owed and for vandalism to their property.
Miss Olenichuk, you and the defendant were good friends, according to what I've read, for about 7 years. And there came a time, it was past summer, that, according to you at least, the defendant was thrown out of her house. She lived with her parents or her mother, along with her child. And you volunteered to take her into your house that you share with your boyfriend.
Right.
She did, in fact, move in with you. And when was that?
June 1st, 2002.
And how old is your child?
11 months old.
And the child came with you?
Yes.
And it was your agreement, according to you, that she would take care of some chores around the house, pay some minimal rent.
Right.
So your claim it didn't work out. You told her to leave because you believed that she had stolen some money from you. You changed the locks on the door. She came home. She got angry when she found out the locks would change. She vandalized your house, vandalized your car. Ms.
Right.
Crandall says she owes you nothing. She didn't cause any damage.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It appeared that she was drinking. We were screaming at each other and yelling. She went to her car, got a crowbar out of her trunk, and went at my trunk with her crowbar.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jennifer Olenichuk and her boyfriend Michael Robertson claim former roommate Jennifer Crandall owes for vandalism to their property and unpaid rent. Jennifer says the couple locked her out.
So when did you find that she had stolen money from you? What makes you think she stole money from you?
On August 8th, I was at work. I got paid $200 in cash. I came home late that night. We had a fight because I had used Jenny's car to go to work, and I came home late.
So she was angry with you?
Yes, very angry. We went to bed very late. The next morning, we woke up, and Jenny was gone with Cheyenne, and I went in my purse, and I was missing a $100 bill. Usually she left a note when she left. She left no note that morning, and she didn't call right away. She didn't call for a few hours after that. Then when I did talk to her when she called, she had told me that her and her sister-in-law had been at the mall getting some toys for Cheyenne and this, that, and the other. And I had asked her, well, you were kind of broke yesterday. And she had told me that she took exactly $100 off of an account that she has at the bank.
Okay. So?
After that, she didn't come home all day. I went back and forth with deciding whether or not I actually wanted to be kind of mean about it and just do things the way I did. And at like the last minute, I decided. And I packed up all her and her child's stuff and put it outside. She came home about 5 minutes later, and that's when things just escalated. I was in the house the whole time watching out the window. It appeared that she was drinking. She, of course, tried to get in the door to come upstairs, and she noticed that the locks was changed, and there was a lot of yelling going on. She then started throwing rocks at the windows because I live on the second story, and sometimes you don't hear people knocking. Then it went from that to, of course, I didn't open the window or answer at all. I was scared that if I went downstairs...
You weren't sure about it.
That if I went downstairs, there'd be a physical confrontation, which didn't need to happen after everything else. She used the neighbor's phone and called about, 6 or 7 times. Why don't you come downstairs? This is ridiculous. You're being a...
Why did you decide to go the nasty route? I mean, you said I debated whether or not to go the nasty route back and forth, and finally I decided to go the nasty route. Why?
Well, and we've had a lot of problems with the friendship in the last 7 years, and the night before, like I said, we had gotten in a big fight.
Because you used her car, and you kept the car out longer than you were supposed to. That was the wrong thing to do.
Right.
So why did that end up with you doing the nasty thing and throwing her things out?
Because it was very, very loud and escalated the night before. We were screaming at each other and yelling, and I said, okay, I've already apologized 3 or 4 times, I'm sorry. And finally I was just like, well, why don't you just leave then? And when I said, why don't you just leave, she said, no, I'm not leaving. Well, then when the stuff happened the next morning, I was scared that, again, inside my house this time, I would have the same fight of, no, I'm not going to leave. So I just did things the way that I did, more or less to save.
Nasty.
Right, very nasty.
So? What do you think she owes you?
The night that the whole thing happened, August 9th, after she was angry that I changed the locks, she was trying to kick in my door. It didn't open, but she messed up the door. I do have pictures. We had to replace the lock again after I just changed it. The molding was pulled away from the door, and then after that, she realized, I don't know if she realized she wasn't going to get it open, or she just got sick of kicking at it. She went over to her car, and she was yelling stuff about she had some tools that were stored in my trunk because I have a very small apartment. She went to her car, got a crowbar out of her trunk, and went at my trunk with her crowbar.
Anybody ever tell you that you had to give her some notice before you changed the locks on her? You just locked her out with her 11-month-old baby.
She was already planning on moving.
What I'm telling you is, you did it in a disorganized fashion over an incident that was your fault. You took her car and kept it without her permission.
No, that's not why I kicked her out. The reason I kicked her out was the money.
She's not the only one who lives in your house.
No, but my...
She's not the only one who lives in your house?
Right.
I don't know whether she took your money or not. You still are obliged. She's a rent-paying tenant to give her notice, and you didn't. You just can't say, well, I don't like this tenancy anymore. I'm changing the locks and throwing your stuff out. That doesn't work. And you yourself told me...
See. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Grace, you rented a room from the defendant. The tenancy lasted 1 day. You want your money back, and in addition to your money back, you want some punitive damages you claim for invasion of your privacy. Mr. Rossi said you left of your own volition, you broke the terms of your tenancy, and you don't get any money back. Correct?
That is correct.
Okay. What kind of place did you rent to her, Mr. Rossi?
Room inside of a privately owned home.
You're the owner?
Yes.
So you rented her a room in your house with kitchen privileges, I assume?
Correct.
How much did you charge her in rent?
$325.
And what other money did she give you?
First month's additional for utility expenses.
How much did she give you in total?
$575.
Had you advertised for this room?
Yes.
Where?
Buffalo News.
Are you legally able to rent in your home?
Correct.
You are legally able to do that?
Sure.
She signed the lease?
No.
How come?
There was no written contract.
Why not?
Didn't feel the need to.
You have a tenancy, then you have a contract. It says what your rent is, what security deposit, what it's for, that it'll be returned, what you're going to do with the security deposit, put it in an interest-bearing account. I mean, you want to do all these...
There was no mention of any security deposit, Your Honor.
Well, what was the other $250 for, sir?
Money that she chipped in for the utility expenses the first month.
$250 for your utilities?
Correct.
What utilities cost you $250?
There was no mention of any additional security deposit.
Mr. Rossi, had you ever rented a room before?
No.
Never?
No.
Okay. Who advised you legally?
No one.
That's what I figured. Okay. Now, Mr. Grace, what date did you move in?
January 1st.
When had you seen the room?
3-4 days before it.
And you spoke to Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Who else lives in the home?
His girlfriend.
Just the two of them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How old are you?
19.
Your mother. Sit down. Yeah, what happened on January 1st when you moved in?
He helped me move my stuff into the apartment, and he was acting very strange.
It was a room.
I'll get to that.
What apartment?
his apartment.
I thought it was a house.
No, it's not.
What is it?
It's an apartment that he is renting.
It's an apartment in a building that he's renting?
No, it's just an apartment, like a house, but he's renting.
From whom?
From his landlord.
Is that true?
It's a privately owned house, Your Honor.
Do you own it?
I don't own the house, no.
That's what I asked you before. Did I ask him that question before?
That's what you asked him.
And what did he say? He said yes.
He said, yeah.
You are a renter.
Yes.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Rossi?
Self-employed contractor.
How long have you been a tenant?
6 years.
In the same place?
Correct.
Did you have permission of your landlord to rent?
Yes.
Show me.
I don't have anything in writing.
Really?
No.
What's your rent?
How much do I pay for rent?
That would be the question, Mr. Rossi.
$470.
Plus what?
Utilities.
So your rent is $470, you're charging her $3 1/4.
Correct.
Go ahead, Mr. Grace. You say he's acting weird. He is weird.
He was not charging me $3 1/4. He was charging me $350.
Okay.
I paid him up front the day before I moved in for $250 for utilities, and the day that I moved in, I paid him $350 for the first month's rent. He refused to give me a receipt saying that I paid him $350. He said for tax reasons. Then he showed me and my father all these gas bills that he owed. He did not say that he couldn't pay them. He just said that they were too high. And that night, I fell asleep that night. He came in my room. His pit bull first, he didn't tell me he had a pit bull. His pit bull burst into my room and started attacking me, started jumping all over me, biting my arms.
If a pit bull bit your arms, madam, you would know it. Mr. Grace, I don't want you to make up any stories
It was
to
under
embellish.
the covers.
You understand?
Okay,
If
yes.
a pit bull bites you all over the arms, you would have major scars or some scars.
I was under the covers.
Oh, okay, so his dog came into your room and it scared you.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Then he came in my room smoking pot. He got the dog off of me. And he sat down next to me and he started talking sexually to me. And he
That's a lie.
No, it's not. He's the liar.
You felt uncomfortable there, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Prior to your moving into his room, where had you been living?
At my father's.
Does your father live with your mother?
No.
How long had you been living with your father?
For about 3 years.
Why did you leave your father's house?
I wanted to become more independent.
Were you working?
No, I was going to school.
Full-time or part-time?
Full-time.
Who was going to be paying your rent?
I was.
If you're a full-time student, how are you going to pay your rent?
I am on SSI.
What's the nature of your disability?
Depression, anxiety.
And you take medication for that?
Yes.
You were going to try to make it on your own?
Yes.
Didn't work out. And the next day, you said, I'm going back home. Now, when you left, where did you go?
I didn't go back home. I called up my mother and I was crying.
Okay, and so did you go to your mother's house?
Yes.
And you stayed there?
Yes.
Is that where you're living now?
No.
Where are you living now?
I'm living back at my father's.
Okay, good. Everything okay?
At my father's, yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Rossi, aside from the fact that you illegally rented a room in a place where you were a tenant and you have absolutely no proof of the fact that your landlord gave you permission to do that, I'd like you to tell me what were your out-of-pocket expenses for the 24 hours that Mr. Grace lived in your house? Is not an answer, Mr. Rossi.
Out-of-pocket expenses while she was there for 24 hours?
Yes.
There were none.
Perfect. Then if she left after 24 hours, why didn't you return her money to her?
Because I had to spend time to try to gain access to get myself a new tenant. If I was able to
what
have...
kind of nonsense did he just say? What kind of gobbledygook did he just put together?
I'm not catching it.
You're not catching it. You're not catching it.
You are
Mr. Grace.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't look like an unintelligent person. A little slimy, but not unintelligent.
And later today...
Tell me what they were.
It was payment for money that I loaned.
That's not what I asked you. That is the conclusion.
The circumstances?
If you don't remember, say I don't remember. Remember that I will test you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 19-year-old Allison DeGrace claims former landlord Stephen Rossi caused her to move out after only 1 day. Allison says during her first night there, Stephen entered her room while she was asleep.
Mr. Rossi, My question was, you illegally rented a room, she moved out, you had absolutely no loss as a result of her moving out. If you were aware of the fact, Mr. Rossi, that when she moved in, that she was on medication, a fact that was evident to me, then why didn't you say, look, this is not working out. She's unhappy. I'm going to give her back her money.
I wasn't aware that she was unhappy, Your Honor.
Listen, she moves all of her things into your house. She comes there with her father?
Correct.
With her father. I mean, if you're an intelligent person, you don't look like an unintelligent person, a little slimy, but not unintelligent. You understand that there's a certain dynamic here going on. This was in what month? January in Buffalo? It gets very cold, but I'm sure your brain thought out enough in Buffalo in January to understand that there's a certain family dynamic going on here. So if it didn't work out and she was unhappy, she was stressed, whatever it was, you say, here's your $600 back. I'm not out any money. It didn't work out, especially since you were doing something that was in violation of your tenancy. You probably fell behind on some bills, and you probably figured you could get somebody to shore up a little bit, and you did, and you got a $600. You managed to pay off the bills you were behind paying off, and you say you can't have your money back. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Everything he said was a complete lie.
The girl's on lithium. She's on Prozac. She's only 19 years old.
I'm not on heavy medication.
I think she moved into a place. She moved out the following day. It's her loss.
I'm not crazy.
I think the girl's nuts.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of D'Antuono versus Holdren. Step forward, please.
26-year-old hairstylist Stephanie D'Antuono is suing her ex-boyfriend, personal trainer Thaddeus Holdren, for an unpaid loan to buy a car. Thaddeus says the money didn't become a loan until they broke up.
Ms. D'Antuono, I've read your complaint. You claim a loan to the defendant, who was your live-in boyfriend for a period of time. Is that right?
Yes.
It was a loan for a car?
Correct.
And any other expenses?
Yes, for work that needed to be done on the car.
Mr. Holdren said there was never a loan. His position is that he played the role of house husband.
Yes.
That you have a child that he took care of, and he was a personal trainer. He gave up some time in order to be able to accommodate your schedule. And there was never talk of a loan until the two of you separated. So when did you start to live together?
We began to live together only after I had given him the loan. It was in August.
Tell me about the loan.
Thaddeus approached me about loaning him some money for a car that he wanted to buy. I had the funds to help him out, and we discussed it in detail. That
Well, what were the details?
How he had to pay me back. There was no confusion as far as...
Well, no, don't tell me there was no confusion. Just tell me what the agreement was. You said it was very specific, so tell me the agreement.
I agreed to loan him the money if he agreed to pay me back in full.
Is that as specific as it went?
Pretty much, yes.
Go ahead.
He agreed to pay me within a certain amount of time.
Well, that's more specific. What was the
Yes.
amount of time?
A couple of months.
Okay.
And when he didn't, he told me he was having some problems and wasn't going to be able to pay me at that certain time. So I was upset, but I agreed to allow him more time if he would give me payments. Whenever he had money, if he could give me some cash or, whatever he was able to do.
So?
So he didn't. He failed to pay me.
When did you move in with him?
He moved in with me.
When did he move in with you?
That was about a year later.
So 1 year later, he's made no payments on this loan, and then you move in together.
Well, he...
Just answer my
I'm
question.
sorry. Yes, that's right.
Okay. And you lived together for a year.
No, we did not. We only lived together for about 2.5 months.
Your Honor, I lived with her longer than that.
He was at my house on a regular basis, but he did not live there.
Fine. When did that start?
Probably around the time that I gave him the loan. He was staying there maybe a couple nights a week.
More than a couple nights, Your Honor.
That's not correct.
It's over 2 years since this loan was made.
Yes.
And over that period, you have not gotten any payments.
He did pay me $150.
When?
In April of 2001.
Is that right, sir?
I don't know if it was 2001, but I paid her $150. But that's not including everything I did for her and her son.
What did you give her $150 for, Mr. Holdren?
Because, if I'm with her, or living with her, whatever, I expect to do something, taking care of her son and taking care of stuff around the house and stuff.
That doesn't answer my question, Mr. Holdren. What was the $150 for?
Just for her.
Well, tell me how that came about. the $150 payment?
She gave me the money, and things happened. Hold on.
Mr. Holdren, you're trying to think about the right answer. I don't want you to think about the right answer, sir. I want you to think about the truthful answer. You said to me, I gave her $150 when I asked you what it was for. You did a song and dance. Now, I'm asking you the circumstances surrounding you giving her this $150 in March.
Well,
if you say I don't remember what it was for or the surrounding circumstances around it, I will understand that.
Well, I gave her money a couple times, so the $150 is like me giving her money on a regular. I mean, not on a regular, but I gave her money, you know, like any other boyfriend would do. It wasn't like I was giving her $2,000 or you know what I'm saying, like big money, but
Do you remember the circumstances surrounding the $150 payment? The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Then tell me what they were.
It was payment for money that I loaned him.
That's not what I asked you. That is the conclusion.
The circumstances?
If you don't remember, say I don't remember. Remember that I will test you. If you don't remember, say it. If you remember, tell me.
I don't remember.
Did he give you any other money during the course of your relationship over the last 2 years?
He paid me $100 after our relationship had ended. This was this past April.
What was the $100 for?
For payment from the loan that I gave him.
Did you give her $100 after you separated?
Yes.
For what?
That was for part of her thinking that I owed her all that money. So $100.
That was
part of me owing her the money.
That was part of her thinking that you owed her the money from the loan?
Right.
Oh, good, that makes it easier. So you did, Mr. Holdren, make a payment to her for this $2,000 loan.
Right.
And you made at least one payment. Is that right?
Right.
And that was made within the past year or so.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to allow you in 30 seconds or less, Mr. Holdren, explain to me why this was not a loan and you don't owe her any money.
Okay, I'll start off with this. We made an agreement when we met. Well, after we met, she has a son. He's 4. Well, he was 4 at the time. And her job is very demanding, and she has different hours every day, like early in the morning sometimes and late in the evening sometimes. And her son goes to school early in the morning. She couldn't take him to school, so I would take him to school, get him up, get him dressed, pick him up from daycare, bring him back with me, and wait till she gets off, and he'd hang out with me, whatever, for the period of time, whatever day it was.
So I'm listening. Keep going.
Yeah. I mean, I did everything. I was like a kindergarten cop with him. This whole thing to me is just like she was pimping me through the whole thing. Like, you know, she's my female pimp.
That's a nasty thing to say.
That's how it was, because I was doing everything, but she still just seemed like I owed her this whole $2,500.
Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Holdren. How much rent did you pay?
I didn't pay rent at her house.
How much did you contribute on a regular basis for food for the house?
Depending if I went out to eat or...
No, in the house.
Little.
How much did you contribute regularly towards the utilities?
None.
So you were basically living rent-free. You had no expenses.
Your Honor, I have my own apartment, too.
Where is your apartment?
At the time, it was on the other side of town from where she lived at, on the west side.
Which side is nicer? Her side?
Yeah.
Mr. Holdren, anything else you want to tell me, sir?
I just felt like I don't owe her the whole $2,500. I mean...
So you don't think you owe her the whole $2,500?
Right.
Tell me what part of the $2,500 you think you owe her?
It would really be hard to say because...
Well, I want you to think hard. I mean, it was your statement that I don't owe her the whole $2,500.
I don't know, because the time that I put into the relationship, not only with her, but her son too, it was like, I couldn't really tell, because I was working in the morning and in the afternoon, and my schedule was flexible because I was a trainer, so I, you know, arrange it where, you know, I could make it a better...
Mr. Holdren,
yes.
What part of the $2,500 do you think you should be given credit for, sir?
I don't know.
So I guess you'll have to leave it up to me, right?
Well, I was hoping you'll feel my side of the story as far as me taking care of her son and everything. Because
no, Mr. Holdren, I'm going to make it very, very easy for you, sir. If there is a contract that provides, even an oral one, that you loaned me this money for the car, and I'm going to work it off by taking care of your son at $1.75 an hour while I'm taking care of him, that will be my contribution, so we're going to take that off the car loan. That's an agreement. But after the fact, you don't make that sort of an agreement. You don't sit back there and scratch your head and say, well, I did all these things for her. Therefore, I shouldn't have to owe her that much on what was originally a loan. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's just a lot of double talk that you're doing for me now. $2,500 was the original loan, and you paid her $250, so judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,250. That's all.
Parties are excused. Yeah, this is case number 309 on the calendar in the matter of Rossi versus Holden Hills. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Mr. and Mrs. Rossi, you recently got married.
Yes, ma'am.
And the defendants catered your wedding.
Yes, ma'am.
You were not real happy with the wedding.
Very upset.
And you want half your money back, which
Yes,
is
ma'am.
$3,000. When was the wedding?
August 10th, 2002.
And how many people did you have at the wedding?
120, ma'am.
Did they have a catering hall?
Actually, it's a country club / reception hall catering company.
And they provided the food?
Yes, ma'am.
They say that everything just went along swimmingly well except for some little bananas or something that weren't done quite right. So I have a few questions before we get into what you weren't happy with.
Okay.
Having done a few weddings myself, I know that you usually go for a tasting of the food and to pick the menu. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you go for the tasting?
Approximately 1 or 2 months before the actual wedding day.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's say you went there sometime in either June or July and you picked the menu.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had dinner.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you meet the chef?
Yes, ma'am.
On August 10th of 2002, did you have the same chef?
Yes, we did.
Same chef?
Yes, but she was fired that night.
We let her go that night, and we terminated her shortly thereafter.
Why?
Well, her attitude was, can't do anything about it now type of attitude, instead of, being apologetic. And
Can't do anything about what?
the fact that the plantains were not properly prepared.
Let's start. So you say there was nothing wrong at the wedding except the plantains were not properly prepared. Is that right, sir?
That was Mr. Rossi's main complaint that
I'm
night.
not talking about his main complaint. I'm talking about you do weddings. What was wrong with the food?
The only thing that was wrong with the food, Your Honor, was the plantains were not ripe and therefore were not prepared properly.
Let me hear.
That's not true.
Let's start with the first complaint.
Well, when we arrived at the reception hall and had our photographs taken, shortly thereafter, probably about 7 o'clock, we entered into the hall. There was no appetizers in the bridal room, as we had requested. There didn't seem to be any coordination.
That was in the bridal room, not,
Right.
not where the reception was being held.
Right.
So you didn't have an hors d'oeuvre to eat when you got there? You
Right.
personally?
Right.
Let's move on.
Okay. We walked into the reception hall after we were introduced, and all the salads were supposed to be in front of our guests and in front of our tables waiting for us.
Okay, so when you come into Michael and Zyda Rossi, come in, and everybody is standing around their tables, and the salads are supposed to be in place at that
Right.
time, and they were not there.
Right.
Why
That's
not?
correct. The salads were not the first course, Your Honor. The first course, the appetizer course, was a pasta course. So the pasta would have been served before the salads as an appetizer.
Well, was pasta served?
The pasta was served before the salads, ma'am. And the salads were supposed to be on the table waiting for our guests, and then the pasta was supposed to be served after the salads.
Do you have a copy of the menu?
I have a copy of the contract, and it has everything that is on the menu. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but does it say what's to be served first, the pasta or the salad?
It says that it is cheese and the fruit displays, and then it says ziti and marinara, and then the chicken and the plantains afterwards. It doesn't say that the salad should be served before.
Okay,
no.
so what's your next complaint?
My next complaint is after they served the ziti, then they served the salads, and then we had to wait an hour before they actually served the dinner. So what we had to do is we had to ask the DJ to move along with the garter toss and the flower toss and the cake cutting. And we had to do this all before the dinner. The dinner wasn't served until 9:20 p.m. And the dinner was supposed to be served in between 7:30 and 8 o'clock, ma'am. We were married at 5 o'clock. And we had to go around and apologize to everybody for not
Between
the food.
7:30 and 8 o'clock. What happened? What happened?
What happened is the bridal party was running late that day, and when we say 7:30, 8 o'clock, it's an estimated time. 99% of the time it runs late.
Why did it run an hour and a half late, is my question. Were you having trouble with the chef?
I think Mr. Rossi's referring to the entree being served
Yeah,
at 9:20.
he's talking about the entree.
I'm not sure it was 9:20, Your Honor. It might have been closer to 9. But if the party runs late, we still have to go through all the steps of serving the meal correctly, which means serving the appetizer,
So you weren't having
clearing
any
the
problem.
plates.
You weren't having any problem with the
No,
chef. Okay,
no.
let's go next.
Ma'am, after he served...
Let's go next. The meal comes. Is anything wrong with the meal?
Oh, yeah. It was disgusting. It was nasty.
I couldn't even make out what the plantains were. They were like rotten. They were hard.
It was
Okay,
disgusting.
now what was served
It was supposed
with...
to be an ethnic meal.
Okay, what are you having as a main dish?
We're having Spanish rice, boneless chicken with plantains on the side.
Okay, so that was the side dish.
Right.
A side dish. That was the main problem, the plantains.
Well, the rice was nothing compared to what we had the day of our taste testing. The chicken was either overcooked or undercooked, and the plantains, half the people couldn't even make out what they were.
Well, he acknowledges that they were pretty nasty.
The rice was mushy. It was nothing what we had at the taste testing.
Okay, usually isn't.
It was nothing in comparison.
Usually isn't.
Okay.
But what did you do for them because the plantain, their side dish, was bad?
Well, as the night went on, Mr. Rossi had been drinking quite a bit. He came in drinking out of the limousine and down the aisle when they were introduced. And it was hard dealing with him. He was very upset with reason. We take full responsibility for the plantains, and we did try to make restitution. Towards the end of the evening, we told him we'd give him like $300 for the plantains. He didn't want to hear about it, threw them at my feet in my office, where Linda Rossi had to take him out of the office. At the end of the night, I told him to go on his honeymoon, come back, and we'll discuss it when he comes back. And he came back with, Your Honor, this grocery list of 3 pages of what we think are nonsense nitpicking items.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I take the plantain out of the napkin. I said, look at what you're serving my guests. This was totally embarrassing. I threw it on the floor.
Get over it. There are worse things that happen globally than bad bananas.
And later today,
she said I could have a couple friends over.
Couple, like Noah's Ark, 2 by 2, couples, 2. So how many people did you have at this July 4th party?
About 20, ma'am.
20 is more than a couple.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michael and Zaida Rossi say wedding banquet managers Roy and Rita Vermeesh owe for a refund of their wedding reception. The Rossis say the food was inedible.
Go ahead, Mr. Rossi, I'll hear you.
Okay, I had a couple of beers. I was not drunk.
Okay.
When the dinner was served at 9:20 p.m., I took one of the plantains and I put them in the napkin. I went out to the bar area and I was looking to speak to Roy. And that's where I encountered this woman where she was the head waitress, and I asked to speak to Roy. She wouldn't let me speak to him. He was very busy. Finally, he comes around the corner, and I take him into the office. I said, Roy, can I speak to you? He said, sure. I take him in the office. I said, Roy, look what time it is. It's 9:20. I got married at 5:30, and I take the plantain out of the napkin. I said, look at what you're serving my guests. I was so upset. This was our wedding day. This was totally embarrassing. I threw it on the floor. I was upset. I admit I threw it on the floor. And I told him, this is embarrassment, and I expect a refund or I will take you to court.
Fine. How much of a refund did you want?
Well, we set up an appointment, and I asked him for $3,000.
Well, $3,000 is outrageous. That's half.
Ma'am, we had golfers come in and eat.
Did you listen to me? $3,000, that's half.
It was a real embarrassment, ma'am.
Well, you get over it.
The waitresses were rude.
Excuse me,
Half
Your
of them
Honor.
wouldn't serve water.
I want to tell you something. I'm not minimizing the fact that this was not the wedding that you planned on, that you had nasty waitresses, that the rice wasn't good, that the chicken wasn't terrific, that the meal was served 45 minutes to an hour late. I'm not minimizing any of that. What that would do is to say to somebody, never use this catering hall again because we were totally dissatisfied. But if there was one thing, and it's clear from what Mr. Rossi says, the one thing that really irritated him, the one thing that he did was he brought this plantain in a napkin and threw it on the floor because that was what was awful. Look what you're serving my guests. There should be some restitution for that, not half the cost of your wedding. Put your hand down. Are you a mother?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, tell you, if you're her mother, then what you do is you say to yourself, you're going to teach your daughter a little bit of what's important and what's not. You don't get yourself totally exercised over something. You had a wedding, you got married, it's supposed to be a nice day. If the little bananas weren't right, you get over it. It's not the worst thing in the world. There are worse things that happen globally than bad bananas. And you don't expect it to be...
But you pay for a service.
It's not the whole thing.
Absolutely, absolutely right. And there are
it.
certain things that are objective and there are certain things that are subjective. Attitudes of waitresses is not something that I could put on a barometer. Where the golfers came into the country club and ate your appetizers, something that you should consider before you book a country club where they have golfing people coming inside.
Well, they had assured us that golfers were
Listen to me.
there by 6 p.m.
Listen to me. You're not following what I'm saying to you. If you're dissatisfied with the service, you don't recommend them again. You fed 120 people. 120 people came, they danced. Put your hand down, Mr. Rossi. That's what your main concern was. Your main gripe was one of the side dishes, and it's true that there were only 2 side dishes, turned out to be really lousy. You had your salad, you had your pasta, you had your cake, you had chicken, you had drinks. Let's see what else you had. You had cheese and fruit display. I assume that was there. You had hors d'oeuvres. You had beef teriyaki, scalloped bacon meatballs. Since I heard nothing about that, I assumed that they were there.
I would like to compliment.
You had something with grated cheese. You had chicken, rice, and plantains. Now, the plantains were lousy. They acknowledged that. You had wedding cake and ice cream, which I assume was served.
No, they did not even serve us. They didn't even offer me and my wife a piece of the wedding cake, ma'am.
Oh, get over it.
Can I say
Judgment for the
something?
plaintiff, listen to me. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. The whole wedding was $6,000, $500. As far as I'm concerned, it covers the bad plantains. Goodbye. Be happy.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Get to say anything.
She didn't want me to say anything about a dog coming in,
He came in, probably just walked into the place. Within seconds, he was out the door.
about coffee not being served, about water not being served.
I was probably rude, but I thought he was a drunk from downstairs.
About golfers eating your food, I mean, come on.
I think they should be happy and get on with their lives.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Casey versus Mogel. Step forward, please.
Business owner Melissa Casey is suing her husband's former best friend, 25-year-old student Anthony Miguel, for trashing their home when they were on vacation. Melissa says Anthony threw a party and someone backed a truck into their pool.
Miss Casey, you and your husband were going away on vacation. You knew the defendant. He was a friend of either yours or your husband's or both, and he agreed to do some house sitting for you, take care of your house and your pets while you were away.
Correct.
You came home and you found that someone had backed up into your above-ground pool, causing it to leak, causing your whole backyard to become flooded and all the pumps and everything else destroyed. That happened on his watch.
Correct.
Is that right? Well, Mr. Mogel says that he did not destroy the pool and cause the damage. It was one of his guests that did that, and if you want to be compensated, you should get in touch with that guest. That's your defense. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, tell me what happened with the pool, sir.
I had threw a party on the 4th of July.
At your house?
At their residence.
Oh.
While they were away in Canada.
Now, just a second. You threw a party. Had you discussed that party with them before they left?
She said I could have a couple friends over.
Shh, please, please. Tell me about exactly what she said to you.
She said, as I was over at their house before they left.
Look at me in the eyes.
As I was over there at their house before they left, and we had agreed that I would watch the house, she said...
Look at me, look
sorry.
here.
She said, you could have a couple friends over, just take care of the house, and that's what I did, and I had a couple...
Now, just a second, just 1 second. What level did you achieve in school, sir?
I'm currently attending college.
As a college student, I will ask you this question. A couple means how many?
A couple friends could be anywhere from 2 to about 20.
Do you ever watch Jay Leno?
Yes.
Do you ever watch Jay Leno when he walks around asking America's youth questions like who was the first president, who's buried in Grant's tomb, who was Jimmy Carter? And you hear the moronic answers they give sometimes.
Yes.
That's what I thought of when you said a couple could mean anywhere from 2 to 20. A couple, like Noah's Ark, 2 by 2, couples, 2. That's 2. You can have a couple of friends over, that's 2. A few friends over can be more than 2. It could be 3, it could be 5. Some people might even say it could eke up to 20. But a couple is always 2. That's why when you call up and make a reservation, they say, are you going to be a couple, or is your party a party of more than a couple? Couple is 2. So how many people did you have at this July 4th party?
About 20, ma'am.
That's
20. 20 is more than a couple.
There were more than 20
Just a
people
second.
there.
Miss Casey, does it sound like you're losing? Don't interrupt. Say nothing to him.
Sorry.
Say nothing to him.
She wouldn't know
this
anyway
case,
how many
listen
people...
to me. This case is a foregone conclusion. I'm really just sporting with him.
Okay.
Do you understand? I'm sporting
Yes,
with him.
ma'am. I
I'm
apologize.
sporting with him because this case should never have reached a court when the damage was done to the property. Hopefully, before you even got home, he would have made arrangements with the other person who caused the damage. Probably if they backed into your pool with a truck because they had had too much to drink. He would have made arrangements with that person to take care of the problem. He didn't do that. And even after you said you have to pay for this, he said it's not my responsibility. And he forced you to take time off from your jobs, pursue this case in court. Right? It goes against my grain to just say, you were wrong, sir. Please try to accept responsibility. I have to have some fun with him because I think that that's what you would like. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, it would be boring for you just to stand there and have me say to him, you're absolutely wrong.
Right.
Right? I have to embarrass him a little bit. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
And if he doesn't understand it, I'm telling him right up front. And I'm not keeping it a secret.
He obviously don't understand.
Well, he obviously doesn't understand. He's going to have to be one of those kids that stays in college about 6, 7 years, maybe.
I'm currently on the honor roll in where I'm attending.
Really?
Yes.
Just tell me, Mr. Mogel, what happened on the date when this pool was damaged? You were, according to you, sleeping during this part of the party.
I was passed out around 2 a.m. and
Right.
the party was still going.
Go ahead.
And I
When you woke up, what'd you find?
A broken pool.
So why didn't you tell them that you would take care of it?
It wasn't my responsibility. Whoever backed into that pool needs to pay the damages.
Your Honor, I have pictures.
Where would you get the pictures?
Sure.
Who do you live with, sir?
With my brother.
Mm-hmm. That's a picture of the keg that him and his 20 friends drank.
Listen to me. He's a fool. He can educate himself from today till tomorrow. If he doesn't understand the fact that he had a responsibility, he took on the responsibility to house it and to pet sit, to ensure that your property was safe while you were there. That was his job. In exchange for having the pleasure of living in your house, use your pool, you know, take a respite from wherever he was living, but live comfortably for a few days while you were away. In exchange for that, his job was to ensure the safety of your house, because if you wanted your place to be trashed, you could have just left it alone, and your dogs would have done their business like they did here with him watching the house, and maybe some strangers would have come in, you know, thugs, vagrants would have come in and trashed your house, but you couldn't have done any worse, right?
Right.
Okay. So instead of him doing what he was supposed to do, he had a party with 20 friends. He passed out from drinking too much. All of his friends were probably in a similar state, and they trashed your property. Now, he doesn't think that that's his fault. And if he doesn't think that that's his fault, I want him to go back and take Graduate 101 watching Jay Leno say who's buried in Grant's tomb.
Your Honor,
Okay, because he's a fool. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,013.45. Get him out of here, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Count in the matter of Collins versus Tierno. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Collins, your complaint against the defendant is as follows. You lived together for a brief period of time. You decided that the relationship wasn't for you. You were moving out. According to you, the defendant became a little hostile, had a hissy fit, and damaged your property, your car and personal property. He says, well, there might have been some weakness in the car that caused the damage. He really didn't do anything. Right, sir?
Yes.
Oh, okay. How long did you live together?
It was about 3 months.
Okay. And what date did you decide to move out?
It was in August, the 23rd. Actually, it's 22nd.
Okay, so tell me what happened.
I was packing boxes to put in the car and had the hatchback open, and he came in.
Your car has a hatchback.
Yes.
According to
yes. And he saw the boxes and started freaking out, getting mad. Oh yeah, you want to leave? Go ahead, and I'll help you, and just start loading boxes out and taking and dumping them. And
dumping them
in the car, like in a big pile. And one of the boxes, my video camera came flying out and broke it.
So he was helping you pack.
Helping, exactly.
And putting the things in the hatchback.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened?
Then, on top of everything else, he put my stereo, my speakers, and he was trying to close the back, and he was doing like over and over, and he did it really hard, and the window broke. It was just a mess.
So that's the property damage that you're complaining of?
Yes.
Because there was glass all over your clothes, and it shattered, and whatever. Okay.
And paints, my paints were back there, I just dumped them out, and they were on my good suits and everything, and so that's what happened to my suits.
Well,
what paint and
where was the
glitter
paint
and stuff
from?
Stuck. Well, I'm an artist, and I had some paints and things, for arts and crafts.
Oh, so he
took and dumped them on top of my clothes, right?
Okay.
And then the speakers and the stereo went on top of that.
You have photographs of the car and an estimate for the damage, so I can take a look?
I have receipts. I don't really have photographs.
You have receipts for the hatchback window? Mm-hmm. That's what I want to see. Now, what about this camera?
The camera that had gone, it went flying out of the box and went for a tumble on the street.
Okay. How much did you pay for it?
It was about $600.
You have a bill?
No, I couldn't find that receipt.
All right,
And
Mr.
then-
Tierno, let me hear your version of the events, sir.
You want to hear the whole sordid story from the beginning?
No, I don't want to hear the whole sordid
First fell in
story. If I
love
wanted
and
to, I'm
all that?
speaking. Listen to me.
Huh.
You asked me a question. At least give me the courtesy of permitting me to answer your question.
Okay.
I do not wish to hear the whole sordid story of your relationship. I wish to hear what happened on the 22nd of August when you came home and found her packing.
I came home from work. She was packing boxes. She said, I'm packing my stuff and moving. It's not working out between the two of us. You know, this just came out of left field. I asked her what she was doing, and she said that she
I'm
was
leaving.
moving out. Well, so I helped her. I started helping her.
Tell me how you did that.
What's that?
Tell me how you helped
Throwing
her.
stuff around.
Shh. Interrupt him.
I grabbed the boxes that were packed already, and I put them in her car.
What happened to her window?
What happened to her window? When I felt that the car was full, I went to shut the back window, and after shutting it, or after trying to shut it a couple times, I gave it one good one, and it just broke. The window broke. I didn't do it intentionally, ma'am.
No, it was negligent. Either it's intentional or it's an accident. An accident usually is a result, happens as a result of negligence. She didn't break the window.
No, she didn't, ma'am.
So who should pay for the window?
Well, how about the things that she broke of mine, personal property that...
Shh. Please, Ms. Collins, I don't have a counterclaim, Mr. Tierno, so let's not get into what things she broke of yours. What I want to know is, who do you think should pay for the window? Let us assume that I accept your version of the events, that you come home from work, you find her packing. You had no clue that she was going to leave.
Right.
But you very calmly decided to help her pack. And you were packing and putting
Well, we
boxes.
got
I'm
into
speaking.
an-
I'm
oh,
speaking.
excuse me.
And according to this is what you just told me.
Right.
You were packing and you put the boxes in the car, and then you tried to close the hatchback at the time when you felt as if the car was full. You tried it a couple of times, and then you finally gave it one good one, because those were your words. Wasn't that his word? One good one.
One good one.
And the window shattered. So my question to you is, who should pay for the
Well, it didn't
window?
really shatter, it just
Her,
cracked, but-
her, or you?
Well, in an argument between a man and a woman, and we got into an argument, and she was throwing things at me, breaking stuff, you know, of mine, okay?
You mean on that day, August 22nd?
Yeah, we got into an argument.
Oh, well, you didn't tell me that, Mr. Tierno.
Okay, well, maybe
The
I should
Mr.
expand on
Tierno, what you told me, sir, was you were helping her pack because she wasn't working out. She wanted to leave. You didn't say anything about an argument, sir.
Okay.
So now you had an argument.
Yeah, we had an argument.
Oh, that's a different story. So when
I
you...
thought you would realize that, you know, I come home and my girl was packing up her stuff, and yeah, it was kind of...
Oh, no, sir. She said you had an argument. You just said that you came home and you were helping her move her boxes in the car. So there was an argument.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did you break any of his property?
No, I did not break any of his property.
She did break stuff of mine.
What did I supposedly do?
Quiet.
And later today,
car just lost control.
He grabbed the steering wheel. He didn't just grab it and like make it move and make me lose control of the car. He grabbed it, pulled it down right here, and held it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carlene Collins says ex-boyfriend Bobby Tierno destroyed her belongings after they broke up.
What other receipts do you have?
The other receipts I have are for the suit, my good work suits and my art supplies that got smashed underneath the stereo when it got thrown in there, and paint everywhere and stuff. And then after that...
Did you break any of his property?
No, I did not break any of his property.
Okay, just asking you. I don't have a counterclaim, so I'm just asking
I
you.
didn't throw anything.
Whether there's a counterclaim or not, I mean, the truth is she did break stuff of mine.
Well, I don't have
What?
a counterclaim, sir.
What did I supposedly break?
Quiet. Now, what suit are you talking about? Which suit is this?
There was a few. I don't have them all. I just
Well,
have
I'm
like
not.
one of my
Listen,
good ones.
listen to me. What suit is that? That's the suit that's there. Because I have a bill
This
here.
one, actually, this one I didn't have a receipt for.
Ms. Collins. Why would you save this suit for which you don't have a receipt and not bring the suit for which you do have a receipt?
Well, because I thought that I could somehow save this one. The skirt doesn't have anything on it, you know. The other ones were just, it wasn't even worth saving. They were just,
You should see my apartment when she was painting all over the place on my furniture.
Listen
and
to me. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to
this.
hear from you now. I'm asking her a question. You're not. This is not a bad thing that I'm asking her questions.
When I decided to file a claim and sue for that, I had already tossed the stuff.
All right. He absolutely owes you for.
Now there was some time they had to.
He absolutely owes you for a new hatchback glass for your car.
Why?
Why? Because you broke it, sir. That's why.
Now he was calling.
Why? Because you broke it.
Well, how about the stuff that she ruined of mine? How about the rent?
Sue her. Just a minute. Sue her.
I understand.
Do you understand? She has the right
Well, Your
to
Honor,
sue you, which she has
maybe
done.
I could talk some sense to
Which
you.
she has done. She sued you for breaking the hatchback of her car, which you acknowledge that you did.
And the time off of work.
Judgment for the plaintiff. The car cost you $2,094.45. Thank you very much. That's all.
What about?
That's it.
Where's our excuse? You may step out.
He knew what he did. You know what? I guess he just thought that he just wasn't going to have to pay for anything.
When we get in a fight, she'd throw things, and she'd knock over a little knick-knack on the table or a lamp.
I don't break things.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Spear versus Green. Step forward, please.
22-year-old waitress Jamie Spear is suing the father of her child, 20-year-old Job Corps worker Antoine Green, for the cost to fix her car. Jamie says Antoine caused her to crash into a telephone pole.
Ms. Spear, you and the defendant have a child in common, and it is your claim that the defendant caused your car to be totaled.
Yes, ma'am.
You were driving the car, but his actions caused your car to be totally wrecked. The defendant says that it was your fault, that you were arguing with him, and you had no business driving anyway because your license was suspended. Is that your defense, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
How old is the child that you share?
2 years old.
Now, what was he doing in your car?
Okay, he went to Job Corps about a year ago. He just got back and he just got a job. This is the first job he's had in going on 2 years. So this is the first real child support.
You went to Job Corps?
Yes.
What did you do in Job Corps?
I took up a trade, brick mason.
And you came back and got a job as a brick mason?
No, I came back and got a job as, I'm working for the city of Winston-Salem right now.
Go ahead.
Okay, he called me that day because he was getting off work early. He wanted me to take him to cash his first check. And I agreed. And so being this his first check.
Okay, so far, was that your first check that you were getting from your job that day, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you ask her to come and pick you up?
Yes.
Okay. So I picked him up, and he wanted me to go to cash his check, and we're on the way. And we decided that we weren't going to go through the court system to get child support. He wanted a chance to just give me money or pay for her. And so I asked for $40 a week. As we're going to go cash the check, I said, okay, this is what I want from you. Mind you, I haven't had any child support up until now. So he started telling me that he wasn't giving me money for me to go partying with or to waste and spend on myself. And it hurt me because I've been doing all this by myself. So that started a heated argument. And we started arguing. We were driving down the road. He got mad. He reached over. He grabbed the steering wheel. He didn't just grab it and, make it move and make me lose control of the car. He grabbed it, pulled it down to right here, and held it. So we went up on the sidewalk. We hit a tree. It kind of sideswiped, and then we hit a telephone pole, I think it was, in front of that, which stopped the car. Luckily, there wasn't a scratch on any of us, but the car is totaled, and my daughter was in the car. We could have all died. We were lucky.
Who takes care of your baby?
I take care of her. When I go to work on the weekends, his mother keeps her.
So you only work on the weekends?
No, I work on Monday nights and Thursday nights and Friday and Saturday.
You get any sort of sustenance from the state?
No, just I had daycare assistance, but that's it.
How many days a week?
5.
Well, what do you do when your daughter is in daycare?
Well, I was working lunches, but I wasn't making enough money, so I had to go back to working dinners.
Why don't you find another job to do if you're getting daycare?
I'm going to school in January. So, and I'm
What have
trying
you
to
been
find
doing?
a second job. I am.
Why don't you work breakfast and dinner and lunch? I mean, if the state is paying for your daycare, Miss Spear, they're paying for your daycare not so you could stay home and watch soap operas in the afternoon. They're paying for your daycare so that you can be out there working.
Right.
Now, you have a suspended driver's license?
I do.
Why were you driving?
Well, actually...
Not actually. Why were you driving if you're not supposed to
The
be driving
day
the car?
that the accident happened is when I found out that my license was revoked. She came back to me and said that your license had been revoked.
Why was it revoked?
Because I had an outstanding ticket.
For what?
For speeding.
That you didn't pay?
I haven't had the money to pay.
Well, that's because you were home watching soap operas instead of working lunches. Now I'll hear you. Did you know, Mr. Green, that Miss Spear had a suspended driver's license?
Yes,
when
I
you
knew
called
that.
her?
I knew that.
He did not
Did
know
you?
that.
Shh.
I'm sorry.
He says he did. When did you find out that she had a suspended driver's license?
I found out when the accident happened.
Oh, so you didn't know.
Yeah, I know now.
It's not what I asked you. I want you to try to follow what I'm saying.
Okay.
Now you tell me your version of the events. You called her up and she turned off her TV and she came to pick you up. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead. Pick it up from there.
So she picked me up from work. I got off early, and the first thing she asked me is about the child support. She wanted me to give her $40 a week. She wanted
Now, how much more was that than you had given her all of last year, sir? Last year, how much were you giving her a week?
I wasn't giving her pretty much.
What?
I really didn't have a steady job then.
Just a minute. Oh, now I understand. So, you didn't give her anything last year.
I gave her something.
How much?
If I could, about $50, if I could.
So you gave her nothing last year. And the year before, how much were you giving her a week, the year before?
And
A week?
It was
A
close
week?
to a couple of $100.
A week?
Yeah,
Really? You were giving her a couple $100 a week?
yes.
That's a lot of money. Where were you getting a couple $100 a week from?
I had a good job then
So why did you go into Job Corps?
because I wanted to get a trade to make more money.
Well, you didn't do that.
No,
It didn't help you.
no, I'm still
You
working
gave
on
up.
it though.
You gave up a job where you could afford to give her $200 a week to go into Job Corps. How much were you making at this job?
$300 a week.
So you are, Mr. Green, you are one of the most generous people I know. So you're making $300 a week from your job, and you're giving her $200 a week child support. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
You believe that? This is coming from a man who didn't want to give her $40 a week.
No, let me tell you.
$40 a week. So you're telling me first you were giving her $200. Let me follow this, Mr. Green.
I didn't want.
You're giving her $200 a week because she had a really good job making $300 a week. So 2/3 of your income you give her. Then you wanted to get a better job with a trade. So you went to Job Corps where you couldn't send her any money. Then you came out and you got a job where you were making how much a week at this job working for the city?
About the same thing, $250, $300.
$250 or $300 a week, right? So why weren't you giving her $200 a week? The last job you had where you were making $300 a week, you were giving her $200. What happened in the car, sir? So she asked you for $40 and you said, I'm not giving you $40.
No, I'm not giving her no more money. So she started arguing. You know, we was arguing real loud for a minute, for about an hour, driving on the road. The car just lost control. So I grabbed the wheel, tried to pull the car back on the street. But instead, the car hit the pole and then hit up against the tree.
Okay. What was the total damage to the car?
I wasn't able to get an estimate because I can't afford to get the car towed anywhere. It's not drivable, and I can't afford to have anyone come out and look at it.
When did you buy the car?
In February of 2002, this year.
And how much did you pay for it?
$1,600.
Okay.
And then the value of the car is valued at $2,600.
I don't care what it's valued at, madam. Miss Spear.
And then
You think that I believe he's totally responsible for this? I don't believe he's totally responsible. I believe that you're partially responsible. You don't have a fight in a car with your baby in the car over anything. You stop the car and you say to him, get out. Stop the car, pull over, and say, get out. And then you would have gotten out of the car and you would have composed yourself and you would have continued. You don't fight with him back and forth, especially with the baby in the car. Don't you think the baby hears you screaming back and forth to each other? 2-year-old child understands that.
May I say something, Your Honor?
No. Takes two to make a fight. Two idiots to make a fight driving in a car with a baby. You want to have a fight with each other in a car, bad enough. You're placing yourselves at risk, other people on the road at risk. But to have a fight in a car with your child in the car screaming and yelling at each other is the height of stupidity. So the car, you paid $1,600 for that, I believe. You only get 8. The other 8, work off at lunch. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800.
This is Marsh. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Cochran, according to your complaint, you and the defendant had dated for a period of time. You became ill and were hospitalized for a period of 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah.
When was that, sir?
August 30th.
It is your claim, sir, that Miss Marsh, during the time you were hospitalized, took your bank card and withdrew some $1,700 from your bank card without your permission.
Yes, Your Honor.
When you started to complain to her about taking the money after you were released from the hospital, you then claimed she filed false stalking charges against you. You were arrested. You were forced to wear a bracelet, an ankle bracelet monitor, which you had to pay for.
Yes, Your Honor.
And in total, you are suing her for some $3,000 because you say that these charges were false.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So let's start with the hospitalization. What were you hospitalized for, Mr. Cochran?
My doctor said I was under a lot of stress from working a lot. I took a vacation to get away, but it didn't do no good.
So it was a psychiatric hospitalization?
It was behavioral medicine.
Were you self-admitted, or did someone admit you?
They took me by ambulance.
From where?
From McDonald's, where the defendant works.
What happened? Did anything happen in McDonald's?
I felt kind of hot and felt like I was going to faint, and they said I fainted in front of the counter.
But there wasn't a scene or anything there?
No.
Now, how did you get custody of his bank card?
When Paul was admitted to the hospital, he had bills that needed to be paid. His father brought the bills to him at the hospital. He told me to come up. He needed me to take care of his finances. Paul, myself, and the psych tech had to go to security for Paul to release the bank card, the bank number, and details as to what I was supposed to do for him. Yes, Your Honor, I did withdraw the money, which I have proof of, to pay his bills. I have the bills that I paid for Mr. Cochran.
Can I see them, please?
These are the withdrawals. These are most of the bills that I could gather up. That's about like $900 and some worth. And I also have the bill where he said he loaned me $300, that I deposit $300 into its account.
Are you saying you paid $300 of your own bills out of his money?
Yes, I did.
You have a letter indicating that it was with his permission that you paid $300 worth of your bills?
No, I don't have a letter.
Then you can't pay $300 of your bills using his money.
Okay.
Miss Marsh, because if Paul is there for a psychiatric hospitalization,
okay,
you don't do anything with regard to your problems.
Mm-hmm.
You only deal with his problems if you're being a friend.
I did that, and I replaced the $300.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this is what I was...
Okay.
There's it right here.
When did you replace the $300?
On 9/5/01.
What did he buy on his Zales account? A jewelry store.
He had bought a ring for me. He had bought like a necklace for me.
Did you buy gifts for her?
Yes, Your Honor, but I paid cash for him before we went on vacation to Orlando. There was only one bill that was paid while I was in the hospital, and that was $209.
Capital One bank credit card, $30, $83. Sprint cell phone?
That was her cell phone, Your Honor.
How do I know these are his bills?
Well, because we both had buddy phone bills. I have those.
You paid Sprint $125, and then you have another money order receipt that you paid Sprint $83.15.
Mm-hmm. For the 2 cell phones.
Well, why were you paying your bill from his account?
Because that's what he told me to do, Your Honor. He said...
No.
Because the phones were in his name.
No. But he's not using them. You had one phone. Who's doctor? A dentist?
I had to have a tooth extracted, and $70, yeah.
So why are you giving me this bill as a bill that you paid for him?
That was one that shouldn't have been in there, but okay.
So I got a Sprint bill that shouldn't have been in there? I got a jewelry store bill?
That's part of the loan, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
Can I see how much money was taken out of your account?
It was showing there what was deposited and what was withdrawn the same day, the $300.
All right, now, Miss Marsh, when he got out of the hospital, what happened?
Paul wanted to continue dating, and I told him, I said, Paul, too much is going on. I just don't think it's going to work out between the two of us. And that's when Mr. Cochran started stalking and...
He didn't say anything to you about the money that was taken out of his account?
No, ma'am. He never said anything about the money. This issue came up after the breakup.
Your Honor?
Yes.
The day I got home, I received a bank statement showing the withdrawals, and I called her and asked her why she withdrew the money from my account without my consent.
And what did she say?
And she hung up on me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have they advised you to be under psychiatric care?
No, Your Honor.
Have they advised you to be on medication?
No.
I'm not so sure about that, Mr. Cochran.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Paul Cochran Jr. says ex-girlfriend Odella Marsh stole money from his bank account while he was in the hospital. Paul says when he was released, Odella had him falsely arrested for stalking.
Now I want to hear about this bracelet. Why did you have to wear a bracelet, sir?
I went to the police station on the case on the bank account.
Okay.
I was arrested in the police department on a warrant by the LaPorte County Sheriff's Department in our town to say that I was stalking her, intimidating her, and invasion of privacy.
Were you doing that?
No, ma'am, I was not.
How was he doing that, Ms. Marsh?
Mr. Cochran was phoning my house. He was creating problems on my job to where they fired him out from off of my job. And he came up to the job one day, just radical. He had, that day he had the gun with him. And I left, and I have witness, I went to the police department, and I just was filing.
Do you have the papers from the criminal court which ordered you to wear the monitoring bracelet?
Yes, I do.
And the certificate of
I have
disposition?
everything.
I have
I'd like to see the papers, please.
Okay,
I got the arrest warrant and everything.
Here's everything contrary. Okay?
His, hers.
Thank you. What happened when you appeared in court on July 15th, 2002?
When I appeared in court on that day, his case was dismissed because the last incident where I had to use the panic button, of which I had a device that I carried in my car every day, which was ordered by the court, and also had a panic button that I was to keep on my persons at all times. Mr. Cochran was out by the apartment building, and the machine didn't go off. That stunned me because it's supposed to pick him up.
Your Honor?
Yes, go ahead.
On July, they said that there was several false police reports on the incident, so the prosecutor and the judge dismissed it because of false police reports. The prosecutor checked in on it, which the monitor will pick up if I come in with 500 feet. On the day that she hit the panic button, I was not in the area. Somebody else was driving my car at the time to see if there was a false police report being made. That's why the case was dismissed. There was an undercover police officer driving the car.
Your Honor, I have a witness that knows how Paul reacted during this time.
May I speak, ma'am?
Sure. Who are you?
I'm a coworker of hers.
Go ahead.
I was the one who called 911 when he had the seizure in the lobby. I was the one who barred him permanently from our store because he had come in to talk to her after he had gotten out of the hospital.
What happened when he would come into the store?
He would try to talk to Odella, and she did not want to speak to him, and she had told him that before. And I simply said, things are not going well. Please leave her alone. If you cannot behave like a gentleman, you can no longer come in here.
Did he not behave like a gentleman when he came in?
He was loud, and he stayed for hours, would not allow her to do her job.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have friends that went there, you know, older guys. I've been going to that place ever since the day it opened up, and I never, ever harassed or anything. I just...
No. Listen to me, sir.
Yeah.
You were asked not to go back.
I didn't go back after the day I left the hospital.
Yes, he
I
did.
never returned.
Yes, he did. I asked him not to come back, and a week later he came back again, and Odella was there, and he wanted to talk to her, and she did not want to speak to him, and that is when I permanently barred him from the store.
So he came back one other time?
He came back another time after that.
When was that?
A week to 2 weeks after that. The first thing I did was call Odella, and I said, he does not look right. He had the same look he had the morning that he passed out and had the seizure on my floor. Please be careful.
Did you ever see him with a gun?
No, I did not. But I am the one who encouraged her to get the restraining order, and I am the one who had her make copies of the receipts.
The copies of the receipts are...
Apparently they're not doing any good, but...
They're not doing any good because they're all not his bills. You're going to get the money back that was taken from your ATM because she can't establish to my satisfaction that she used that money for your benefit.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand?
Yes.
You are not going to get back the money for having been forced to wear a bracelet, because I believe this lady when she tells me that you were in her place of business when you were told that it's not a good idea for you to be there. And my sense is that you were frustrated. I don't know why, either because you still cared for the lady or because you were angry over the money or whatever reason, but that you didn't do the right thing, and she was afraid because you weren't exactly right. Are you under medication now, Mr.
No, Your
Cochran?
Honor.
You're not?
No.
Are you under any psychiatric care right now?
No, Your Honor.
Have they advised you to be under psychiatric care?
No, Your Honor.
Have they advised you to be on medication?
No.
I'm not so sure about that, Mr. Cochran. In any event, I'm going to get back the money from your ATM card, but not for the electronic bracelets, because that was probably necessary. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,700. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was filing false police reports and trying to intimidate me, making me look bad and her look good.
He became just a maniac.
I hope people that see this realize what women can do to you. You know, they can clean you out.
Hopefully this is over. Paul will move on with his life and just leave me alone.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Norris versus Thorpe. Step forward, please.
Student Diane Norris is suing her estranged son-in-law, 24-year-old construction worker Travis Thorpe, for an unpaid loan for legal fees, travel expenses, and interest on the loan.
Ms. Norris, the defendant used to date your daughter. Is that right?
They were married, Your Honor.
They were married.
Yes, ma'am.
When were they divorced?
They're not divorced yet.
So they're still married?
Yes, ma'am. Separated but married.
When did they separate?
In April of this year.
Do they have children?
No, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you made a loan to the defendant for some bail and attorney's fees. And he's paid you back some, but hasn't paid you back all. You want your money.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the nature of his offense? Do you know?
It was a technical violation. He hadn't paid his fees.
What kind of fees, sir?
Probation fees.
What had you been arrested for?
Burglary of a structure was my original charge.
And you bailed him out?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you give him?
Altogether, it was $750 for his probation fees, $638 to get the attorney to get the bond set.
And what was your arrangement with him?
Travis agreed to pay me back when he got his income tax return. And they only got back about $300. So they paid me about $150 out of that. And then the following year, when they got another income tax return, they paid me about $300.
I will hear you.
Okay, first of all, when I was in jail, I didn't ask for the money. She gave it to my wife at the time, but I still felt I needed to pay it back. So I signed my income tax check over to her, which was $1,289.
Can I see it, please? Are you his wife?
Yes.
Step up, please. Tell me your first name.
Jennifer?
Jennifer, when your husband was arrested, you called your mother, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You asked her for the bail money?
We went and got...
No, you asked her.
Yes.
And what did you tell your mother with regard to when she would get this money back?
I told her that we would pay her back as soon as we got our income tax.
You told her that?
Yes.
Not him. You told her that?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I wanted to give the entire thing to my mom, and he was like, no, I can't do that, you know, and he had to spend, you know, $1,000 of it on drugs. So I made him give my mom $300 out of it.
What happened to your marriage?
He fell in love with another woman.
That make you angry?
Yes, it did.
Make your mother angry?
No, it didn't make my mother angry. She has no say in it. I mean, I did ask her for the money, yes. It was me that asked her for the money because he was in jail. But, I mean, the whole time he was on the phone, please get me out of jail. And I loved him, and I had to get him out of jail.
Just to say, listen to me.
I'm sorry.
He was talking to you.
He spoke with my mother a lot when he was in jail. He spoke with her and me.
He did. I went to jail to visit him, and he told me when I went to visit him that they would pay me back with the income tax refund.
Did you tell her that you would pay her back?
Yes, I did say I would pay her back, so I signed my income tax check over to her. I gave her that entire income tax check and paid about $600 on the bond. I paid all but $320 on the bond and then all my probation fees.
The bond wasn't even $600. It was $500 to begin with. And we didn't have enough cash, so we put my mother's car titles up, her and her boyfriend's car titles up to get the bond, to get him out. Nobody ever paid the bond. It's still up. They're trying to take away my mom's car and stuff.
What do you mean it's still up?
Like, the bond still hasn't been fully paid. So they want to take away my mother's truck, her boyfriend's truck, and her car because he hasn't fully paid the bond.
Your Honor, that's what I've paid on the bond.
Yeah, but you still have a balance.
Of $320, yes, ma'am.
So why don't you pay it?
Well, I don't know if they put up their cars. I was in jail when all this happened.
What, are you an idiot?
Well, no, I didn't know that that's what they had to do.
You stopped paying on this, sir. You stopped paying on it in 2001.
Because I didn't have any money to pay the other $320.
Who do you live with?
I live by myself, or with my girlfriend.
Well, by yourself is not with your girlfriend. You got to tell the truth right away.
I live
You
with
don't
my girlfriend.
Do you work?
Yes,
What kind of work do you do?
a construction worker.
Good. If you do construction work, your girlfriend works, I assume?
Yes.
This is the girlfriend?
Yes.
Then you have money to pay the bond. What do you mean you have no money to pay the bond? What are you, a fool?
Well, at that time, I didn't have the money to pay for it.
You have it now? What is wrong with you, sir? You have responsibility.
Yes, ma'am.
Your evidence cooked you goose. I almost believed you that you turned over your whole check to her. And then I see this piece of garbage where you give me a piece of paper that says that you had a responsibility to pay a bond, that you knew somebody else was obligated to pay, and that you pay $3, $5. You made one payment of 60 cents at one point.
I just had to pay something when I went in every week to report.
She could lose her property. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
I don't believe there's any.
There's a lot wrong with you. He's a loser. He doesn't take care of his responsibilities. The attorney's fees, the bond, the fines, less the money he paid you, $1,108. Listen, it is your responsibility to take care of your debts.
Yes, ma'am.
You screw up, you're supposed to take care of it. Nobody else is supposed to take care of it. Do you understand?
Yes. And that's why...
Do you have a car?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Does she have a car?
Yes.
You put gas in her car?
Yes.
Do you put food in your mouth at least twice a day?
Yes.
Do you go to a bar occasionally, go out for dinner once in a while?
Yes.
You don't do anything until you take care of your responsibilities. That's what you do.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you take care of other things. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all. Lucky you got out of this marriage before you had children with him.
Exactly.
Very good. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Mrs. Jenkins. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mr. Akins, according to your complaint, you and the defendant lived together for about a year and a half.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. We lived together like for 6 months.
You were together for a year and a half.
Yes, Your Honor.
Of that year and a half relationship, 6 months was spent living together.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then things didn't work out. You broke up, and you said that you had an agreement with the defendant that she had owed you some money and you would owed her some money, and you decided to leave some of your things there and to forgive certain other things that she had damaged of yours, and she would forgive all the bills that you owed her. You just go your separate ways.
Yes, Your Honor.
But what Miss Jenkins did was she took you to small claims court.
That's correct.
For the bills that you owed her. And you claim she did that in violation of your agreement.
Yes, Your Honor.
So now you want her to pay for the things that you claim she owes you for.
Yes, Your
Is
Honor.
that right? And I've read your answer, Miss Jenkins, and I know I'm paraphrasing. This is not really what you said, but it's pretty much what you said. You said, grow up.
Pretty much.
Right.
Pretty much.
So, Mr. Akins, let's start with the things that you claim she owes you.
Right. First of all, Your Honor, the things I'm suing for is the TV that I purchased from Miss Jenkins when we first got together. And,
Okay, TV.
Yes.
Now, when did you purchase the TV?
About 2 months into the relationship, Your Honor.
Before you were living together?
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me about how that came about.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, we was dating. And,
You were dating?
Yeah. Miss
And
Jenkins
one day you bought a TV.
No, I bought it for her because she was in financial need. She didn't have a TV in her apartment. And so, me being her friend and boyfriend, I looked out for her and got her a television set.
As a gift?
No, as a loan. She promised to pay me back the money for the television set.
When did you buy her the television set?
December of 2000.
Around Christmas time?
No, I think after Christmas, about close to the New Year, Your Honor. This wasn't a Christmas gift.
Did she go shopping for it with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about the TV.
It's a Panasonic 27-inch.
Was there an agreement to pay him back for the TV?
No, ma'am. He bought it for me because
No.
I...
Shh.
He bought it because I didn't have a television. A couple of friends had let me borrow a television, but he said that he would get me a television, and it was before Christmas. It was December of 2000, before Christmas.
Okay. Now, from December of 2000, Mr. Akins, until the time you broke up, which was when?
Beginning of May, Your Honor.
Long time. Did she make any payments on this loan for the television?
She gave me $50 after that initially, and then she also had other expenses, like she used to get her car towed all the time.
No, you're not paying attention to me. Don't try to get ahead of me. Mr. Akins, do you think that you think that I'm going to forget my question?
Oh, no, Your Honor.
I'm not that old, sir. Did she make regular payments to you after December of 2000?
Yes, Your Honor. She gave me $50, Your Honor.
When?
She gave me about 2 months afterwards.
Is that right?
No, I didn't give
Get
you
out
any
of
money
here.
for
You
the
don't even
television.
remember. What did you have for lunch yesterday?
Your Honor, she did make the payment. She gave me a payment on the television.
Good.
set.
She made a $50 payment 2 months after that.
Yes.
And what about the rest of the money?
And it never came up again, Your Honor.
Never came up again, and then you moved in together.
Then we moved in together,
And did you
Your
both watch the 27-inch Panasonic?
No, that TV was in her bedroom, Your Honor. Later on, she bought me a television set, and then after we broke up, she wanted me to pay her back for the television set. So as we was breaking up, I said, well, why would I pay you back? I bought you a television set for $400, and you never gave me a dime for it. We had an agreement during that time that everything was split even.
You are just going to continue to go your way, and I'm telling you that I control my space.
I understand.
So I have questions. When I finish with my questions, if I need any more information, I'll ask you, Mr. Akins.
I understand, Your Honor.
So that's one thing that you're suing for, the TV.
Yes.
Right? That was purchased before you moved in together.
Yes, Your Honor.
What else?
A mixer and a crock
mixer.
pot.
Tell me about the mixer.
The mixer I bought at Best Buy for the defendant, for our household goods, because we were together. So I bought it for the household. And the crock pot for her, Your Honor, because she wanted it.
A mixer.
A mixer,
And
a
how
$200 mixer.
$200 mixer. What about the crock pot?
Crock pot was like $50. I have prices right here from Best Buy.
I don't want the price from Best Buy. I want your paid bills.
Well, I don't have the bills, Your Honor. They were left at her house, at her residence right now.
I have the receipts. I have the receipt.
Whose name are they? His?
No, my name. My credit card name is on the receipts.
Let me see.
The bills weren't paid in the credit card. It was paid through me, through my employee discount for the crock pot and the mixer. She didn't purchase the crock pot and the mixer.
Ma'am, we both work at Best Buy, so it was both of us have the same employee discount. Here's the receipts for the mixer and the crock pot. If you look down, you see my credit card name at the bottom, Tiffany Jenkins.
Power stand mixer was $39.60. Where do you get $200, sir?
The mixer is worth $200. The judge told me I have to come back. When I went to small claims court, I had to sue for the original price of the mixer.
Let me ask you a question, sir. If you want to go to small claims court and go before some person who told you that you're entitled to $200 if you're successful on something that you paid $30 for, I think you ought to go and find her. That doesn't happen here. Even if I found that you bought this thing and that you were entitled to it, you could go to you still work for Best Buy?
Yes.
Go there and spend another $30 and get another mixer. Why would I give you $200? You're just annoyed because she wanted judgment against you. That's why she said, grow
no, Your
up.
Honor.
Me too.
I'm not annoyed because...
Then we have a crock pot, which you said was $50, which was $14.
14. I haven't seen these receipts.
Yes, ma'am.
$14.70.
I haven't seen these receipts.
He never seen a receipt because I purchased it.
No. Show him the receipts.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There was no verbal agreement.
We lived together for 2 years, and you telling me we had a verbal agreement. We were together.
Speak not!
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Elmer Aiken says ex-girlfriend Tiffany Jenkins owes for property she either stole or destroyed. Tiffany says Elmer needs to grow up.
What else do you claim she owes you for, Mr. Aiken?
On 2 occasions, the defendant came into my apartment before we lived together and destroyed my personal property.
Okay, just a second. I read that. You said that was sometime in October?
Yes.
And then you moved in together?
Yes.
Why did you move in together?
Well, she came to me with a sad story, talking about, oh, we had scheduled to move in together, this and that. Oh, I can't afford to move in together.
What's this and this and that?
I can't afford to move and get a place on my own. So I was like, okay, we can reconcile, we can get back together, and we can try to make this work.
Very good. Then,
And
then you forgave her all the things that she allegedly broke when you had...
No, I didn't. We never talked about it, Your Honor.
You never talked about it.
That's what came at the end.
Why do you expect me to talk about something that happened 2 years ago
This is where I'm coming to, Your Honor, with the
now,
agreement at the
sir,
end.
Mr. Akins, don't try to talk over me. Now I've got the drill. You want the things that she allegedly broke, and then you want the mixer and the crock pot, receipts for which she has that are in her name, that all amount to maybe $40. Then you want a TV that you purchased for her before you were living together 2 years ago. Now you're going to explain to me about your agreement.
And I also want for a rider bill. I moved in her stuff out of her old apartment into the new apartment, and I also pay people to move her. I have the rider bill right here, if you want to look at it, Your Honor.
I don't. It's not even in your complaint. It's not in your complaint.
Well, I have to take that up later.
You can't take that up later, Mr. Akins. I'm going to tell you why. Because you have one opportunity to file all claims that surround the same incident. You can't pick and choose and say, well, I'm going to sue her today for the mixer, tomorrow for the crock pot, the next day for the television, and then 2 weeks from now I'm going to sue her for the TV, because that is called harassment.
Well,
that's called harassment.
Well, Your Honor, she sued me.
Shh. Listen to me. So, if you didn't include it in this claim, this rider bill, that claim is forever over. I want you to understand that. Now you can tell me why her suing you and what she sued you for caused you to file this lawsuit.
Well, at the end of the relationship, she said I owe her money for a television set that she purchased for me. During the time that we was living together, she moved in one of her best friends into our apartment. Her friend was supposed to pay me $400 for back rent. I said, we could do this. She won't have to pay me the $400. She verbally told me she was going to give me and give it to you, and we'll be settled, and the whole thing will be over. After that agreement, she got with me, and I say, okay, I'll pay her back for the television set that she purchased for me just to get her out of my life. Later on, a week later, I get a summons that I'm getting sued for the same television set that I'm paying for and the back rent, even though we had a verbal agreement from the inner relationship that the whole thing would be over and that we each other would get on with our lives.
Was that clear as a bell to you?
I have no idea what this man is talking about.
I don't either.
It's all complicated, Your Honor. It's all complicated.
Oh, I know.
But all I know is we had a verbal agreement that bygones would be bygones.
It's like the Treaty of Versailles. Miss Jenkins.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything you want to say to me?
Okay, there was no verbal agreement after, when
Your Honor.
I went to camp.
Your Honor, we lived together for 2 years, and you telling me we had no verbal agreement. Well, we lived together for 6 months. We were together
Speak not! Listen to me. You bought the crock pot?
Yes, ma'am.
That's here. You bought the mixer?
Yes, ma'am.
That's here. I'm not interested in
The
things that you
television.
may have broken before you moved in together. He forgave those things because I assume that after you moved in together, quiet! That after you moved in together, you did share a bedroom, did you not?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did share a bed, did you not?
Yes, ma'am.
What? If somebody gets angry because you broke their best Baccarat crystal, then you don't share a bed together and get up in the morning and say, you're going to pay me for that glass tomorrow, remember. That doesn't usually happen, so forget about that. Now, as far as the television is concerned, I don't find that that was a loan.
No, ma'am, it wasn't.
But I'm just curious. He says there was another television set purchased. Who purchased it?
He purchased the television with my credit card. I came from out of town, and he had a sale auction at his store, and he went and bought the television for me. The television was, I was on.
You're talking about 2 years ago?
No, ma'am. The new television.
Okay.
He bought it with my credit card. I sent him to the store with my credit card to get it because I had drove 7 hours that day. I went to Cancun. When I came back, the television was gone. I asked him why he didn't take the television he paid for and leave.
That's not true, Your Honor. That's not true.
Shh. Just a second.
When I came back from Cancun, he was gone.
Oh, just a second. So he took the TV?
Yes, ma'am.
He took the TV that was purchased on your credit card that you are still paying for?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah, I gotcha.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jenkins, I have a relatively good short-term memory. When we started this case, I said that Ms. Jenkins, in her answer, seems to be saying, why doesn't he just grow up and get on with his life?
Well, Your Honor,
I think that's a very good idea.
Well,
the
Your
case
Honor,
is dismissed. Grow up, get on with it.
These are excused. You may step out.
Don't sit there and drag somebody to court just because you have a grudge.
I looked out for her, but she screwed me in the end.
Just trying to be evil, that's all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bullock versus Haycox.
Step forward, please.
Nurse Karen Bullock is suing her ex-boyfriend, Ralph Haithcox, for having her falsely arrested and for the return of her belongings. Ralph says during an argument, Karen hit him with a Big Mac.
Miss Bullock, how long were you and the defendant in a relationship?
Ralph and I were in a relationship for 9 years.
According to your complaint, the defendant had you falsely arrested on domestic violence charges, and you were forced to spend some 30 days in jail. You want to be compensated for that. And in addition, you say that when he unceremoniously told you to get your stuff and get out, he kept some of your personal property, and you want it back, or the value of that property. That's what your lawsuit is about, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Haithcox, is that your name?
Yes.
Says that you got arrested because you deserve to get arrested. You spent time in jail because you deserve to spend time in jail, and that he has none of your property. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
When was this incident that caused you to be arrested?
It was in March of this year. I served 30 days in jail.
Well, tell me about it. What happened?
Ralph and, like I said, Ralph and I have been together for 9 years. I walked in and caught him in the bed with another woman.
Look at me, please.
The cops was called, and I was arrested. I was told it was a violation of a restraining order, and I appeared in front of the judge.
Just a second. When you came home, something must have happened if the police were called.
Actually, nothing. I told him I said, oh, I done caught you in a lie. You told me it was over between him and his woman. Actually, him and I had problems.
Just a second. He called the police. You want to tell me, sir, what happened when she caught you?
I was home alone. There was no one there with me, and she came in with an attitude about something. And
That's not true.
We started having a debate, and the next thing I know, she had a Big Mac, and she took and slammed it in my face.
A Big Mac sandwich?
Yes.
That's not true.
Okay.
And instead of going off and hitting her, I called the police, and she left and went to one of my neighbor's house to try to hide, but they put a warrant out for her, and about a week later they came to the house and picked her up.
Has there been incidents of violence between the two of you before?
Yes.
Tell me when.
Oh, the relationship was just full of violence and nonsense. We'd broken up maybe a half a dozen times before, and it's just time to stay away from each other. That's what I wanted her to do.
Okay. Now, what I read in the complaint was, Ms. Bullock, it appears to me that there was a restraining order that was in existence at the time Mr. Haithcox called the police and had you arrested for this hamburger incident. When was that restraining order issued?
Had to be a few years ago, but I didn't know that it was still in effect. To my knowledge,
but it was still in effect.
Evidently, it was.
So he had a protective order.
Right.
So you served 30 days for violating that protective order.
That's what I found out it was.
Now, did you plead guilty to violating the protective order?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Do you have any of the criminal court papers, please?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at them. I think you understand. Thanks.
Oh, I have something else here, too.
Well, this was issued in February, and this protective order says that you are to refrain from doing anything to him and to refrain from entering the family dwelling.
Mm-hmm.
You pled guilty? You pled guilty to violating the restraining order?
That's what they got me on, for violating the restraining
You
order.
pled guilty and served 30 days.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Then you can't sue him for falsely having you arrested.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Now, what personal property do you say you still have in the defendant's house?
I have receipts and stuff, documented stuff that I had.
Like what? Give me an example.
A television. I have antiques in there, lamps, dishes, blow dryer, curling iron, mirror, handmade mirror.
Go ahead, sir. Do you have any of her stuff?
Yes, some of those things are there, but I've called her and tried to make arrangements with her so she could come and pick up her property.
Okay.
And she said, well, I'm going to settle it in court and don't call here anymore.
Fine.
So,
this is what you want to do. I want you to pack up her property. Pack it up neatly. Don't damage anything, because you want this lady to leave you alone. Correct? What relative do you have? You live in New Britain, Connecticut?
I have a brother.
Do you get along with her brother?
Yeah.
Good. 5 days from today, your brother, in the company of a police officer, will go to the house. He will give your brother your property, Do you understand? He says he has some of your property, and he doesn't look like a nut, so that he doesn't want you to come around anymore. So whatever you have that belongs to her, or you think even marginally belongs to her, be smart. Pack up, get ready for her brother to pick up. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. 5 days. That's all. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Z versus Griffin. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Young people, have seats.
All right, let's talk very briefly. You two moms don't know anything about what happened at school on the day of this incident when your daughter's nose was broken. But it is your claim that the defendant's son assaulted your daughter, broke her nose, and you want to be compensated for the unreimbursed medical bills that you sustained.
That's correct.
Mrs. Griffin says that her son was merely defending himself, that your daughter started the fight, and she is not responsible. Correct? Yes, ma'am. So why don't you two ladies sit down, and I'm going to see these two young people right up here. What's your first name?
Kiara.
And yours?
Donald.
I'm going to start with Donald. Now, Donald, you know that you punched Kiara in the face, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And her nose, according to her mother, was broken. So I want you to tell me why you did that.
I got to school that morning, and kids came up and said, Kiara called your mom a low-down dirty. Okay.
Okay. So somebody came up to you and told you.
Yes, ma'am.
That Kiara had called your mom a nasty name.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do?
Okay, Kiara, she was on a field trip, and she came back, and I guess the kids had already told her. And we was...
Okay. Were you on a field trip that day?
Yes, I was.
Did you have a conversation with somebody when you came back from the field trip?
Yes, I did.
Who did you have a conversation with?
My friend that I was standing next to.
And what's your friend's name?
Tony.
And what was the conversation about with Tony?
We was talking about things that we were going to do on the playground, not about me calling his mother a name.
Well, let me ask you this question. Why would you call his mother a name?
I don't know, but I didn't.
Didn't say anything bad about his mother?
No, ma'am.
Well, what happened after you had this conversation with this gal who was telling you about these bad things that she was saying about your mom?
It was around lunchtime, okay? I guess she had already came back, and it's a breezeway that you walk down and go to the playground. And I walked up to Kiara and I asked her, and then she kicked me and she said, I didn't say nothing about your mom. And then I punched her in the face.
So what you're saying is she kicked you first?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did she kick you?
In the groin area. She tried.
She what?
She tried to kick me in my groin area.
But she didn't kick you?
She kicked me, but I had blocked it so she could not
kick you
in that spot.
Okay, so she kicked in your direction, but you didn't come together.
She kicked, but I blocked it. Okay. Okay, and so then I punched her, and she had a jump rope. It's red, white, and blue, okay, like the American flag. And she hit me in the head with it. And then by that time, we just started fighting. And then Miss Porter, she saw the fight. And then by that time, she came, took us to the office. And then Kiara's mom came, and then they went in the office.
Donald says that you tried to kick him. Is that true?
Yes, it is true, but I did not kick him.
But you tried to kick him. Why did you try to kick him?
That was after the fact of the fight, not when the fight started.
Well, you tell me now, Kiara, how the fight started.
He came to me and said, what'd you call my mama? And I said, I didn't call your mama nothing. And then he pushed me, and I pushed him back.
He pushed you? How did he push you?
Real hard, like this, pushing me back or something, and up against the wall. And I pushed him back, and then he came in my face. He grabbed my hair, pulling my hair down, and then punched me in my face, just keep on one side of my face. Then he started punching me in my nose about 10 times, I should say. And then Shayla went to go get a teacher, and he ran off to the playground like did nothing happen.
Had you ever had trouble with Donald before?
No, ma'am.
Had you ever had trouble with Kiara before?
No, ma'am.
Well, maybe this other young girl who was telling you the stories was just making things up. Is that possible?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why would you believe her?
I went to her and asked her, and she kicked me, and then I punched her.
I don't believe that. No, Donald.
I went to her and asked her.
No, Donald. I don't believe that you asked her, and in response to your asking her, she kicked you.
Yes.
Don't believe that, Donald. Doesn't sound right to me. Doesn't sound right to me, Donald. Sounds like a good story you might tell your mother. but it doesn't sound truthful to me. You ever had trouble scrapping in school before? What are you looking up for? You're not that old that you have to remember.
With one boy. With a boy. Yeah.
Once before?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you lose your temper?
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened to you in school when you lost your temper?
We started fighting on the playground.
How many fights have you had in school?
None.
Didn't think so. So, Donald.
Now.
You see how you know how to be a polite young man?
Yes, ma'am.
You got to carry that over to the outside world, Donald. Understand, Mrs. Griffin? He wasn't telling you the truth. She didn't kick him first. He got angry. And he got angry, Mrs. Griffin, because somebody told him that she had called you a bad name.
May I?
Sure. Go ahead.
I really don't know exactly what went on in this incident, but prior to this, the kids were calling one another. They supposedly were secretly liking each other. This child called my house numerous times.
So?
They liked each other, so I figured it was just a little disagreement between maybe a little girlfriend and boyfriend, and that's how it started. I don't really know how it went.
All right, Miss Griffin, let me go back a second. What I don't want you to do is to make excuses for Donald.
Oh, no, there's no excuse.
Okay.
None.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know how many hours your mother has to work for $175?
12.
A little bit more than that.
She has to work a long time to get that money, Donald. So you not only owe her an apology, you also owe your mother an apology. You start with her.
And later today,
Your son is an alcoholic. He's not providing for his family. She has a baby and 2 other children, and you're suing her for a deep freeze? Where is your brain?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jackie Breamsey says 10-year-old Donald Griffin punched her daughter in the face, breaking her nose. Donald says she called his mom a bad name.
All right, Miss Griffin, Donald was told by someone, a gossip, that this young lady said something bad about you. Now, she says she didn't say it, so that could have been just a troublemaker.
That's true.
But your son has a short fuse, because he's been in trouble for fighting before. And what he would naturally do is not go over to Kiera and have just a discussion with her. He would be angry. Doesn't strike me as being logical that if he went over to her and said, "Did you call my mommy a name?" and her response would be to kick him in the groin. That doesn't sound logical to me. What sounds logical is he might have said to her, "Did you call my mommy a name?" And she said, "No, I didn't." And then he hit her or pushed her, put his hands on her. That's logical. And that's what happened. And it's all because he listened to somebody who was gossiping. Do you understand, Donald?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't want to spend the next few years with your mom having to come defending you in court, do you?
No, ma'am.
Because that's not pleasant for you and especially for your mother. Okay, step up, Miss Breamsey. Tell me about your nose. What happened to your nose, Kiera?
It was broken. He punched me in it a lot of times.
Tell me what it felt like.
It felt like it was hurting really bad. It was getting swollen up. And
You have any pictures? See, you have some pictures there. I'd like to see them. How old are you, Donald?
10.
Looks to me like you punched her in the eye, too. Did you do that, too?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Breamsey, how much were your out-of-pocket expenses? Because it's hard for me to tell. It looks like they were $165?
That's correct, and $10 for the radiologist.
You have to take care of that, Donald, which means your mother has to take care of it. Does your mother make a lot of money?
Close to. Yes, ma'am.
You think your mother... Look at your mother. You think your mother makes a lot of money?
Yes, ma'am.
You do? Miss Griffin, you make a lot of money?
I doubt it.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a correctional officer.
Your mother works very hard and does not make a lot of money. She doesn't have a lot of money to go around getting you out of scrapes. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you're very lucky that Miss Breamsey only wants her unreimbursed medical bills, because I don't think she wants to hurt your mother. Believe me, if you were older, she'd want a lot more. You know how many hours your mother has to work for $175?
12.
A little bit more than that.
She has to work a long time to get that money, Donald.
Yes, ma'am.
She doesn't have money to go around to buy you out of these scrapes. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you really understand it?
Yes, ma'am.
So you not only owe her an apology, you also owe your mother an apology, because your mother's going to have to come up with this money for you. You start with her.
I'm sorry.
You mean it?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $175. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I hope Dawn has learned something from this.
She told him she didn't like him at all.
Never pay attention to other students. No, we're not friends. And he did like me. If they hit you, you hit them back, but you're not supposed to hit them, though.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Coker versus Coker. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Wanda Coker is suing her ex-daughter-in-law, restaurant manager Charlotta Coker, for unpaid rent, living expenses, and the cost of a freezer.
Mrs. Coker, the defendant is your former daughter-in-law.
Yes.
Who are you, sir?
I'm her son, her ex-husband.
According to your complaint, you believe that your former daughter-in-law owes you for some rent, for some miscellaneous expenses, and for a freezer that she promised you.
Yes, they had moved back.
Just a minute. When were you divorced from your husband?
It was finalized September 19th.
And when did you separate from him?
December 20th of last year.
And how long were you married?
We were married for 5 years.
Do you have any children together?
Yes, we do.
How many?
We have one.
How old is that child?
He's 6.
Who does he live with?
He lives with me.
Is that correct?
We have joint custody.
Who does he live with the majority of the week?
It's about 50-50.
Okay, so you live close by
Yes,
to each other.
yes.
All right, Miss Coker, you want to tell me when your daughter-in-law lived with you that you claim she owes you rent?
They came back in June, right after school had gotten out last year.
Who's they?
Her and her 2 children, actually her 3 children, and my son were moving back here to get a divorce because it would be cheaper to move all their stuff together.
And they came to live with you?
She and the 2 kids did. Then she went back along with my son to pack their belongings and have them transported back, but she had left her 2 older children with me.
What period of time do you allege she owes you rent for? Give me the month and year.
From June through December.
June of '01 through December of '01.
Right.
And was she living with you alone or with your son?
No, he was in rehab. He had went to rehab.
For alcohol, I see.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The freezer's still at her house.
I didn't tell her she couldn't have it. I just wanted to say that it's my freezer. She told me I could have it.
I don't know what you want. You want me to make a judgment as to whose freezer it is? I don't have to do that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Wanda Coker says ex-daughter-in-law Charlotta Coker owes for rent, living expenses, and the cost of a freezer. Charlotta says she was forced to live with Wanda when her husband entered rehab.
Okay. Is that correct? When you came back in June, he was planning to go into rehab?
He was planning on it, yes. And it was in July
that he went?
When we came back to Wichita.
In July, you came back as a family?
We came back as a family. We weren't coming back to get a divorce. We were coming back as a family, trying to work things out.
And you were going to live with your mother-in-law?
Yes, stay there until we could get a job, get on our feet, yes.
Fine. What arrangement do you claim there was for rent?
When they moved all their things back, she had told me that she had a deep freeze that I could have for part of the rent.
You mean while your son was in rehab?
Right. Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead. So?
So in the meantime, when they were here, they had this dog that she had brought back that tore up my back storm door.
What do you mean she had brought back? Where was your son? Did he come back too?
He had came back, but he went into rehab.
Just a second. He came back, and they brought a dog. Is that right?
Right.
All of them as a family. Your son, your daughter-in-law, your grandchild, and her 2 children. They all came back together with a dog.
But then she flew back out and decided she was not coming back to Kansas. She was going to make her home in Washington.
Okay. When was that?
That was about July.
All right. How long was she gone in July?
Probably a month.
So then she came back in August?
The latter part of August.
What period of time, I'm saying to you, do you claim she owes you rent for?
At least 4 months.
What 4 months?
For June, she didn't.
She doesn't owe you any money for June. Get it from him. July? She doesn't owe you any money for July. You haven't told me you had an agreement with her. Get your rent from him. Now, when did she come back by herself?
It was the 1st of October.
She came back by herself.
October. I know it was before Halloween.
She came back October 1st.
It was in October, yes.
Where was he?
He was in rehab.
Okay. And what did she say to you when she came back in October?
She told me that they had that deep freeze that I could have for part of the rent. She could not afford to pay me anything.
So what are you suing her for rent for? You're suing her for rent.
Well, the children weren't my grandchildren, and
So what you have to have an agreement for rent, madam. You don't have. You didn't have an agreement.
She was the one that told me that I could have the deep freeze for.
Not
part
talking
of the
about
rent.
the freezer, madam. You said rent.
That was for part of the rent.
Ms. Coker, you're not following me, madam. I mean, I think that your whole lawsuit is ridiculous. You're suing the mother of one of your grandchildren when there is a divorce, and it appears to me that your son and your former daughter-in-law have a reasonable enough relationship to share custody, and you are foolish enough to sue her for a deep freeze. Foolish enough. Now, I don't understand that. She comes to your house. Your son is an alcoholic. He's going into rehab. He's not providing for his family. She has a baby and 2 other children, right? She's trying to keep it all together. And you're suing her for a deep freeze? Where is your brain? Where is your mind?
I have proof that the dog tore up my back door.
He brought the dog.
No,
he brought
did
the
not.
dog.
The
Of
dog
course
was not his. The dog was hers.
Listen to me. According to you, they came back in June with the dog. If you didn't want the dog, you say to your son, get rid of the dog. You don't complain a year later and say the dog ripped apart my screen door. You say to your son, you can come back with your wife and the children, but you have to leave the dog home.
He tried to get rid of it.
What?
He tried to get rid of the dog, and she wouldn't let him.
Then you say you all have to leave.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me, madam. You are a very foolish woman. You have a grandchild. I don't know how many grandchildren you have, but it appears to me, I'm going to say it again, these 2 people don't appear to me to be at odds with each other. They share custody of a child, 50% custody, and there shouldn't be any problem with you mixing up trouble between the 2 of them so that he comes to sit to testify on your behalf against her. That's just not smart. So I have heard nothing with regard to rent. She didn't agree to pay any rent. He's responsible for necessaries for his children. He wasn't providing for necessaries for his children because he's an alcoholic and he was in rehab. During that time, you filled in for him. You're a very good mother. Now, let's talk about the freezer. Did you promise her a freezer?
No, I did not.
All right. What did you say to her with regard to the freezer?
Nothing. We brought it over to her house so we could put extra food in it because her freezer wasn't big enough for all 6 of us.
And when you left, what did you do with the freezer?
The freezer's still at her house. I haven't got it yet.
You still have the freezer at your house?
I didn't tell her she couldn't have it. I just want to say that it's my freezer. She told me I could have it for part of the rent.
Just a second. Shh, oh, be quiet. Just a second. Are you going back to get the freezer?
Yes. I mean, what does she need a freezer for? There's only one in her family.
Các em thân mến, chào mừng các em đến với bài học ngày hôm nay nhé. Hôm nay chúng ta sẽ cùng nhau giải quyết một bài toán của kiến thức lớp 4. Đây là bài toán tính giá trị của biểu thức. Khi mà biểu thức chứa số và chúng ta sẽ được cho giá trị của cái chữ đó luôn, là ở đây cụ thể là A. Biểu thức A bằng 124 nhân cho số A cộng với 180 chia cho số A. Và bài toán cho là A bằng 12. Vậy thì với A bằng 12, chúng ta sẽ viết được biểu thức, đúng không ạ? Sẽ được viết khi thay A vào sẽ là biểu thức A này sẽ bằng 124 nhân cho 12 cộng 180 chia cho 12, đúng không nào? Ở đây chúng ta thấy này, bắt buộc chúng ta phải tính thôi. Ở đây chúng ta tiếp tục là đối với bài toán này sẽ có 3 phép tính được thể hiện ở trên biểu thức: phép nhân, phép cộng và phép chia. Nguyên tắc để tính giá trị biểu thức này thì chúng ta sẽ phải sử dụng nguyên tắc chung, đấy là chúng ta sẽ thực hiện nhân chia trước và đến cộng trừ sau, đúng không nào? Vậy thì ở đây chúng ta sẽ thực hiện là tính tích của bên này và tính thương của bên này. Tích chúng ta sẽ nháp ở ngoài, 124 nhân 12 là 8 4 2, đúng không ạ? 1, 2, 4 sẽ là 8, 8, 4, 1, 1488 cộng cho 18 chia 2 sẽ là 1 này, và 60 chia 12 sẽ là 5. Và biểu thức A sẽ có kết quả là 8 cộng 5 bằng 13, viết 3 nhớ 1, 8 cộng 1 là 9, nhớ 1 là 10, viết 0 nhớ 1, 4 nhớ 1 là 5, và hạ 1 xuống. Vậy thì kết quả bài toán này của chúng ta là khi A bằng 12, chúng ta thay thế 12 vào biểu thức thì chúng ta sẽ thực hiện phép nhân chia trước ưu tiên, sau đó chúng ta mới thực hiện phép cộng. Phép cộng là phép thực hiện sau cùng, và chúng ta sẽ được kết quả là 1503. Đối với những bài toán này thì các em nhớ là khi chúng ta thay giá trị biểu thức vào thì chúng ta phải thay thật chính xác. Khi chúng ta chép từ biểu thức dưới xuống từ biểu thức trên xuống biểu thức dưới, chúng ta phải giữ đúng vị trí, giữ đúng phép tính. Chúng ta phải chú ý, và nhiều em các bạn không chú ý là chỉ các bạn không dấu cộng thì có thể các bạn đổi thành dấu trừ luôn đó.